This is Unspoiled, donors only, covering The Deathly Hallows, Parts 1 and 2, aka the best films of the series. In this episode, Rashawn and I will discuss the best films in the series. Welcome to Unspoiled, donors only. Well, I kind of jumped the gun on that, but Rashawn, how did you feel about these two films?
Oh, these were the best movies in the series. I feel like the listeners will be so relieved because finally we're not going to spend the entirety of the podcast talking about how terrible everything is.
Right.
Even
yes.
though I saw in the group that there are people who are not like don't love these two movies and have some real problems with some part.
Yeah.
So that made me feel better for being so critical of some of the other movies.
Yeah, it's I should actually look into who directed these. I'm going to do that right now. But these are just, I feel like they nail the tone of the last book so much better than the other movies had. I don't really know. I mean, we kind of talked about it in the third movie, how, you know, there's this kind of serious moment in the books with Aunt Marge that they turn into a big joke.
Right.
And this, it's like things are really heavy and dark and given a lot of gravity. And I feel like there were parts of this that actually worked better for me on film than they did when I was reading them. Moments that got to me a little bit more emotionally than they did when I read about them. Which I think is partially because the books rush a little bit at the end.
Yeah.
David Yates.
Did he do both?
I'm looking to see if he did both because it says that he did the second one. Clicking on his name now. Yes.
Okay. I would have said that it's odd that they wouldn't have had the same director to do both because it's part, you know, it's really the same book. It's one part of the story that's just broken up into two pieces for the movies. Mm-hmm. But I understand that, you know, sometimes shit happens in real life and you can't have the same director. But after watching them, it makes sense that it's the same guy because I feel like he maintained the same sort of overall tone of both movies. And it seemed like he understood these books better than some of the other directors did for the earlier movies.
Definitely agree. Oh, he directed Fantastic Beasts too, which is like not a great movie. So, you know, I don't know. Apparently he also did Half-Blood Prince in Phoenix.
Oh shit. Wow, this just turns everything I said right upside down.
Right? I'm just like, maybe somebody else was involved in this than like that he brought on who understood it better than him. I don't know.
Or maybe he learned.
Maybe he is not to be credited with it.
Part of me, I was about to say maybe he learned from earlier mistakes, but then he did Fantastic Beasts, which came last, so.
Fantastic Beasts isn't really based on the book, though, the same way. So I'm really like, yeah, I don't know. I'd be interested to hear what listeners think about that. So the first of the Deathly Hallows movies is my favorite one. I like the final movie, but there are, I think, a lot more kind of why did they do that moments in that one than there are in the first one. Which of the two did you like better?
Right now, especially because I've just seen the second one a couple of hours ago, and I just watched the first one earlier this week, like 2 days ago or 3 days ago. Right now, they're even for me.
Okay.
I enjoyed both of them, and I didn't have. I mean, as we were watching, there were moments where I was like, "Oh wait, they're doing it this way here," but I did not have the amount of rage that I did for choices that they made in this movie as opposed to how I felt in the earlier movies.
Right.
So yeah, I enjoyed them both. I think they both stand up.
Yeah, I think that some of the changes that they made in these, it felt a little bit more like we just did that for the sake of pacing, but it doesn't fundamentally change the plot.
Right. There was a
And
oh, go ahead, I'm sorry.
no, you go
I
ahead.
was going to say I didn't realize until this movie that they left out the part about how, as the Harry and Hermione and Ron are kind of on the run looking for Horcruxes, that they can't say Voldemort's name because that works almost like a tracking spell.
Mm-hmm.
And they didn't include that in the movie, and I didn't even notice it until this the second one.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, it's a thing they left out, but I don't feel like the movie suffered for it.
Yeah, because they still had them get caught. It was just that they happened to like
Mm-hmm.
apparate to the wrong spot and walk into it. Like the effect of that plot point was to get them caught. And one could argue that it's a little bit more effective in the book in that Harry's incaution is what gets them caught because he just says it without thinking about it, even though he should know better.
Yeah.
But really, in the grand scheme, the book does not deal, or the movie doesn't deal with Harry's obsession with the Deathly Hallows
No, it
the way the
doesn't.
book does.
No.
So there really wasn't a point
Yeah.
there because that's why he becomes incautious, is that he's grown obsessed and wants to find them
Yeah.
and believes they'll solve the problem.
And I don't think I'm mad at that change.
Mm-hmm.
Not just the part about the locator spell, but the fact that we don't get Harry being obsessed with the Deathly Hallows.
It's not very interesting to watch, I would think.
Yeah. So yeah, I didn't really miss that being in the movie at all.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Definitely.
Did we get the radio program? I know there's a quick shot in the part 1 of somebody going to sleep with like the little transistor radio. But
yeah, I mean, they don't call it Potter Watch, and it's not treated as if it's a secret thing that you need a password for.
Right.
But Ron's constantly listening to the radio, and it's making Harry edgy at one point. And then there's that long montage of them moving from place to place, and the radio, they're reciting the names of all the witches and wizards who've gone missing.
Yeah. And then so that when we have the scene when they get back to Hogwarts in part 2 and we see them broadcasting, announcing to everybody that, what does it say, lightning is struck or something?
Lightning has struck, yeah.
But again, I didn't think the movie suffered for that choice.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I really love them reciting the names of everybody over the montage of them moving from place to place. That just is really what stuck with me from the first movie when I saw it, was just how much pressure they're under and how mutinous Ron looks as it continues. He's just already looks like shit because of getting injured and everything. And
how crazy and good did that look, by the way?
Oh my God.
Yeah.
I forgot how bad it was. Like his acting in that moment too. Oh, gross. It just gets you like in the gut somehow, But yeah, the idea that we're moving around, not actually getting anything done. And meanwhile, we get to hear daily about all of the people who are getting hurt because I'm not fucking doing my job.
Yeah.
Basically.
Yeah.
And that just, that gives me so much anxiety.
Yeah. It's just a wonderful way to remind the audience, of what the stakes are. Because when you have this part of the movie or any movie where it's just watching your characters like kind of roaming in the wilderness, it can almost
flailing.
Right. It can almost you forget what is happening in the larger world. And our characters can also forget like what's happening outside, like what's at stake, who's depending on them, what the sacrifices are. And that was just a really ingenious way to show us and have us watch the characters be aware, of the gravity of the situation without doing this really long, laborious film thing where they're cutting back and forth to, battles all out in
Right.
in the greater Wizarding world. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
so I
definitely.
just thought it was really well done.
Shorthand, film shorthand, I guess.
Yeah, I guess so.
Um, so it starts off this one the with Bill Nye, who is playing Scrimgeour, Rufus Scrimgeour.
Is that really Bill
And
Nye?
yeah,
I thought you were making a joke.
nope, that's Bill Nye.
Didn't realize
And
it.
he's like, I thought he was cast well in terms of looks, but his acting is sort of weird. I don't really understand some of the choices that he made in his performance, but it's fine. He doesn't factor in too much, so it really doesn't
Yeah,
like hold anything back.
yeah. He doesn't last very long, does he?
No, he sure don't. He dies off screen, which is pretty amazing. Um and we see everybody kind of like saying goodbye.
Yeah, this is one thing they changed that I did miss.
Which part? The because I was about to talk about
Well, yeah, we
Hermione.
can talk about Hermione's first, and then we can go to the Dursleys because it's kind
Okay,
of
yeah,
how it
because the
happened.
first one we see is Ron saying goodbye to his mom
Hmm.
and her standing in the doorway of the burrow, just looking anxious. And then we see Hermione, and she is standing alone in her room and looking really upset. And her mom calls her down for tea, and she's like, "I'm coming," and she sounds really anxious. And then we find out it's because she's about to obliviate her parents and erase herself from their lives. And that is a brutal thing. Like, when you actually see her do it and changing the photos so that she's missing
Hmm.
from all of them.
Yeah.
I feel like they really like nailed that in terms of getting you to see a little bit more clearly than you do in the books just how huge a step she's taking and how much she's giving up.
Yeah. Um.
Because her parents have no means of protecting themselves. They are not wizards. So,
Yeah. I don't know if this is. I think I may have asked this when we were reading the book. If the Obliviate spell is permanent.
yeah, I feel like it it is intended to be, and Hermione is good enough that I kind of think maybe it is. That that's that. And she can like go find them and try and fix it, but I don't know that she can ever just undo what she did.
Yeah. When you
I don't know that that's possible.
when you think of it in that way, which I don't think that I did immediately. And this feels familiar to me. I think we did talk about it in the
Mhm.
when we were doing the book, because I don't think I really appreciated what Hermione was doing. You know,
Yeah.
I think I read it as just being like, well, this is just a spell, and that when everything is good, we can just do another spell and then put everything back the way it was.
Mhm.
And but um even if I didn't understand that, having talked about it reading the book, when you watch the movie, it's so clear by her face,
Mhm.
um, and the way her acting in this scene, that it feels like this is a one way deal, you know.
Yeah.
Um,
Yeah.
and it really is. It's heartbreaking, especially because she can't even have a proper goodbye, you
Yeah, she
know.
can't be like, "So, I have to erase your memories. I love you. I'm never going to see you again. Give me a hug."
Yeah,
Like
yeah.
that's not how that
Which
goes.
I guess theoretically it could have, because she's just going to erase their memory.
But they probably could stop her, or they probably couldn't
No.
stop her, but they could make it a lot
Yeah,
more
I think it would
difficult.
have been much harder
Yeah.
to do it if she had to do it with them facing her, knowing what was coming. That would have just been gut wrenching.
Yeah. And then we get Harry and the Dursleys, and that's the part you were saying that you didn't like the change.
Yeah, we just see them, packing up and like, getting out of town, and
Mm-hmm.
we don't see um Dudley shake Harry's hand,
Mm-hmm.
which, in hindsight, maybe it's just such a small detail in the book that it's not a big deal. But watching, I realized, oh shit, that was something I wanted to see. Like it, because
Yeah.
Dudley, in all of his awfulness, was a huge part of these books, even if
Mm-hmm.
it was only for 2 chapters at the beginning of each one, up until we get what, Half-Blood Prince, maybe? Which,
Uh, yeah,
you know,
I think, yeah.
but otherwise, every time we entered this world as a reader, we had to fucking deal with Dudley.
I think that maybe it's just not as big a thing in the movies. Because Dudley's transformation to not exactly being nice to Harry, but like trying to sort of make up for how awful he was starts after Half-Blood Prince. Or no, it starts during Order of the Phoenix
Hmm.
because um I guess Order of the Phoenix is when they are attacked by the Dementors. So technically Half-Blood Prince is when he starts to make up for it because it seems like the Dementor attack is what
Hmm.
like opens his eyes a little bit.
Right.
And they don't do that in the movies. They don't have him like leaving cups of tea outside Harry's door
Yeah.
and like doing little things to try and make it less awful for him. And there's a moment where he's like, Harry says, well, they think I'm a waste of space. And Dudley's like, I don't think you're a waste of space.
Yeah.
And they don't do any of that in the movie.
Yeah.
So I think they just felt like that was going to feel weird to people who didn't. I don't know.
Yeah.
There are times where I'm like, they're like, oh, well, if you didn't read the books, it wouldn't matter. But they treat so many other things as a given that you know from the books without actually explaining them. Like the mirror and
Yeah.
Tonks's pregnancy.
Yep.
That I just, it's hard to know what they were thinking sometimes.
The things that, like you said, the things they choose to include without explaining versus the things they left out because, well, we didn't explain it, so we can't include it,
Mm-hmm.
seems really arbitrary.
Yeah, definitely. Um, so yeah, that's that goodbye. And then we have the moment that I really love of Snape. It's when the music, oh, and Snape goes like through the gates of
Yeah.
Malfoy Manor
Yeah.
and they turn into smoke. Oh, I love that whole scene. And he walks in and they're having that meeting where the teacher from Hogwarts is upside down.
Yeah. This
It kind of looks like she's like hogtied
It
almost, the
does.
way that she's positioned,
Yeah,
you
it looks
know?
like she's hogtied hanging from the ceiling.
Yep. Um, yeah, it's brutal.
And
It's really,
we
ugh.
at the table we have this is the first time I guess we see Pius,
Yes.
um, who I don't know who that is playing him, but
I have no idea. I don't feel like I've seen him before. I probably
but
have,
he,
but
he is it's a pretty good solid casting.
and it's interesting because Pius in the book is supposed to just be a pawn. But in the movie, they have Pius being actively a Death Eater. Do you know what I mean?
Yeah. Um,
Like he's just Imperious in the books.
is that what happened?
Yeah.
Oh shit.
Um and I feel like showing that somebody is Imperious is probably pretty damn tricky to do. And so they've just decided let's just make him just a willing bad guy because that's a lot simpler and I think that's probably the right call. But I did find it interesting to see that he was like in league with Voldemort in this in the end.
Mm.
Because I always pictured him as just being kind of a dullard, you know, somebody who was just really vanilla and bland, who was being twisted the way in the directions that they wanted him to be twisted.
Oh, I had forgotten that he was Imperious.
I'm
So,
pretty sure that I'm gonna look that up now.
so like I was seeing him being all sleazy. I was like, yeah, that's kind of what I was looking for.
Minister Pius Thickness was a wizard official in the middle to late 1990s. During the Second Wizarding War, he became head of the Department of Magical Law Enforcement, as well as later Minister for Magic under Lord Voldemort's puppet regime, while under the Imperious Curse and thus essentially Voldemort's puppet himself. He technically replaced Rufus Scrimgeour, who had been murdered by Voldemort. Thickness took part in the final conflict of the war, where he fought alongside the Death Eaters still under their curse. He was ousted from power after Voldemort's defeat and was succeeded by Kingsley Shacklebolt in his post for Minister of Magic. I wonder what happened to him after he was ousted. I'm trying to find... Harry witnessed Thickness's altered nature while under the Imperious Curse, which showed him having a strong hatred for Muggle-borns. And... Yeah, I'm trying to find exactly what happens with him after. It's uncertain if Thickness was killed during the battle or just stunned. The latter seems more likely, as Arthur Weasley, like the rest of the Order, knew Thickness was under the influence of the curse. After Voldemort's death, all the people across the country who had been under the curse came back to themselves, and if he survived the battle, this would include Thickness. So, yeah, we don't know what happened to him after that. But yeah, so they don't really, I don't know if they gave a really good physical description of him in the books, but I just always pictured him as being kind of like, weirdly, I pictured him as being almost Dudley-like.
Oh.
And I think that part of that is just because his last name is Thickness, which just sounds so ridiculous. But yeah, so Pius is here, Lucius is here looking like utter shit.
Now, so remind me, he looks like shit because Voldemort has just been abusing him, right?
Yes, because he fucked up badly when he was supposed to get the prophecy.
Okay.
In the last book.
Yeah, because he
lost it.
He looks terrible here, and then when we see him in part 2, good God.
Mm-hmm. And Voldemort takes his wand and snaps the like little holder off it.
His little bedazzled wand.
Oh my God.
It's all
and what's that?
It's all bejeweled. And Voldemort just like, what is this tacky shit?
Oh God. And Bellatrix like offers to kill Harry, and Voldemort's like, listen, I love how much you want to kill people. Don't get me wrong. But this one's mine, and you need to back the fuck off a little bit. And then Voldemort makes his speech about how this teacher from Hogwarts teaches Muggle studies, wishes us to understand them, and would even have us mate with them.
Yeah.
And then kills her and has Nagini eat her. And Snape has to watch and do nothing. Yeah. Because that's his job right now.
And she is, begging Snape as, colleagues and as, ostensibly friends lo these many years. And he just has to sit there on his hands and, because it's big picture time.
Yep. Yeah, I just can't imagine. That is a rough place to be. I mean, this is the kind of thing that when people are like, well, Snape was really brave. I'm like, I'm not arguing that. Because seriously, having to make that kind of call pretty much every single day, watching this dude kill people and having to be like, yeah, but I have to play the long game. I can't do, like, that is a brutal thing to live with. Knowing that, like, yeah, I just watched lots and lots of people get murdered. And although I did it for the right reasons, I still did that shit. I just sat there and watched it.
Yeah. One of the things that I was struck by these two movies was that I hadn't really thought about was how lonely all of this must have been for Snape. Who, I have, I have a little bit of sympathy for him, but, I'm definitely not one of those people who think, all is forgiven because, he was doing it for the right reasons.
Right.
But we're talking, how old is Harry supposed to be at this point? Like 17, 18. He turns 18 in these books.
18, yeah.
So this is 18 years that Snape has been doing this double agent shit. And how lonely he must have been. Because the only person who knew was Dumbledore. There's no one else for him to talk to. To confide in, any of that. It's, that to me is probably the most painful thing about his sacrifice. And the thing that makes me the most sympathetic to him.
Yep. Yeah. And like, imagine if he hadn't been able to give Harry those memories. And
it all
not only, right? Not only would Harry not have found out that he needed to die, although he might have figured that out on his own, but he just would never know that Snape had been in on it, and would have died looking like a treacherous, murdering coward. which, you know,
which
he is
which
technically, but
is an interesting question for the after story, is because Harry names his kid after Snape. So I don't. My assumption is that it's now known for anybody who cares to know that Snape was, you know, undercover
mhm.
and was a good guy. Otherwise, why would you name your kid something like that that people are going to like recoil from in horror?
Right.
Um. So, um. But do does Harry just say, "No, guys, it's cool. Snape was on our side. It's totally cool," and everybody's just like, "Oh, okay."
I mean, probably he would have to like he would have to take out another article in the Quibbler and
Probably.
explain all of
You
that
know,
shit, I
because
bet.
meanwhile, to you, what you said a minute ago is like people will be like, "Yeah, but he totally let my aunt or my mom or whoever die." You know, and
Mhm.
he didn't do shit to save them.
Yep. Yeah, I the whole thing with Snape is just done in such a way in the movies that it's a lot easier to sympathize with him. It's a lot easier to understand why Harry would name his kid after him, and in the books it just feels so much more insulting.
Yeah. Well,
But
they didn't come anywhere close in the movies to committing to how terrible Snape was in the books.
true.
It's like they didn't even
Yeah.
try. Like it really feels like someone made a conscious decision that no, we're not doing that. That's not going
Mhm.
to be a part of this story. And maybe because, you know, 6 movies, before we get the big reveal in the seventh movie, 6 movies of watching him be a monstrous dick. Maybe by the time we get to movie 7, people are just like, no, fuck him.
Yeah,
Nope.
I think so. I think it's just in the movies they don't want things to have as much nuance. It's harder in these movies when they are deleting so much from the story in the first place just to fit it on film to keep shades of gray in there.
Yeah.
And so they're just like, no, we're just making him a good guy, the end. You know, it's a little bit more interesting in the books because she has more room to do what she
Yeah.
wants. Also, I think Harry turned 17, not 18, because 17 is the year that you come of age as a wizard. So yeah, by now he was 17. I'm pretty sure.
Well, that makes
Um,
sense because it's the 6th year, right? And he goes when he's 11.
um, this would be the 7th year, wouldn't it?
Well, I'm looking at just book 6.
This is book 7. Both of these movies are book
Is it
7.
book 7? Why am I thinking there's only
Yeah,
6 books? There's 7 books?
yeah,
So there's 8 movies?
yeah.
Jesus Christ. Now I see why Steve is so annoyed.
um, all right, so moving on. Harry gets moved. This is when we have that weird thing where Tonks is like trying to announce that she's pregnant, and the movie's just like, nope, and cuts her
And
off.
then
Did you
never,
notice that
yeah, I
part?
noticed. And then never goes back to it. and to,
What a weird thing to do.
until Harry uh, mentions the kids. The Doesn't Harry say something about the kid later?
Yeah, when Lupin's
When they're
dead and
dead?
been resurrected to say hi, and Harry's like, "Oh, your kid," even though there's no way like that the audience has any idea if they haven't read the books. Like this just is
See, that's a weird question, too, like for timing purposes. So she tries to announce that she's pregnant in this book. And then by the time they're dead, she's had the kid. So
right.
I guess it's been about well, maybe not exactly 9 months because we don't know how far along she is when she goes to announce it, but that gives us an
Mhm.
idea of how much time has passed.
Yeah, and I mean, like in the books, one could argue, yeah, like there's so it just feels like so much more time has passed than it feels like in the movie, and she doesn't look like she's anywhere near, say, 3 months or anything when she's about to talk in
Yeah.
that scene. So it's harder when you have a visual that you can kind of go off of in the movies than in the books. You could just leave that part out, what she
Mm-hmm.
looked like. Nobody noticed. Whatever. Who cares? But yeah. Anyway, so and then we have the moment where Harry, everybody takes Polyjuice potion and turns into multiple Harrys. which I mentioned in the comments, the director said was absolutely brutal to get on film because of how many Harrys there had to be, how careful the blocking had to be so that he wasn't like standing on himself when they superimpose things.
Mm-hmm.
Just, you know, the director went on and on in the special features about that particular part and was just like, that was really, really fucking hard and I never want to do anything like that again. And then comes the scene where they get jumped on their way out and Hedwig dies. And
yep.
Mooney dies. Or not Mooney. I'm saying Mooney like that's Lupin.
Mad-Eye.
Mad-Eye dies. Mad-Eye dying off camera feels way weirder in the movie than in the books. In the books, it just kind of feels like this is how it's going to be. You're not even going to see people die because it's just going to start happening so frequently.
Mm-hmm.
But in the movie, it just... Did that feel off to you? For the way that Fred just come... I think... it's not Fred.
Is it the dad? Is it Arthur?
I think it's Bill.
Oh, I think you're right.
And it's just like...
Yeah, because Arthur is
Mad-Eye's
the
dead.
last one back, I think. Arthur and
yeah,
whoever he comes back with. I think it's one of the twins, maybe?
I think so.
Can you hear the cats?
I cannot.
Okay, good. You know, to be honest, I didn't... The way he says that I thought the reaction to him dying was also kind of weird.
What? I don't even remember what it was, to be honest. What was weird about it?
It was kind of like you just said. You don't even really remember what it was. It was just kind of understated. I mean, I don't think... Not that I was expecting anybody to, like, fall to their knees, you know.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. I don't know if they were just going for... Everyone is just sort of in shock, and that's how they decided to play the scene.
Yeah.
But it felt kind of like, oh, yeah, okay.
Whatever it was, they cut away from it really fast.
Yeah,
then.
it was kind of like nothing. I don't know. And again, it could have been a choice. Like, that is when we all are supposed to realize, Jesus, it's serious. People are fucking dying, and there's no time to belabor the point, you know, because we have to move to the next thing. So maybe that was just the choice.
Yeah. Well, I don't like it. There it is. So we have that whole scene later with Harry trying to kiss Ginny and her brother's there and he's like, good morning. Which is one of the only bits of comic relief we get in this film.
Well, yeah, there's when who loses an ear? Is it Fred or George?
I don't remember. I'll look it up.
And there's a little bit of a joke when he, you know, when he, what's he say? Something about being holy now.
George lost his, yeah, and it was Severus Snape who took his ear off with Sectum Sempra. I didn't even remember that.
Oh.
Dun dun dun. And then I think it's Fred who dies, right?
I think so.
Yeah,
I'm looking at the comments from the watch, and you mentioned that during the ambush scene that there is no Expelliarmus.
Yes.
What did you mean? Like, does Harry use it?
Yes, in the book, when they're like fighting back, Harry uses Expelliarmus on someone. I don't remember, and the Death Eater yells, "It's him!" as soon as he does that and disappears.
Okay.
And goes and tells Voldemort, because that's kind of become Harry's signature move, and everybody, when they land and he tells them, is kind of infuriated with him that he's still using disarming spells when they need to be fucking killing people now.
Right, that's right.
And in this, he doesn't use Expelliarmus. They treat it that Hedwig sticking near him and trying to protect him is what gives him away, that Hedwig would be with the real Harry. Which is fine.
Yeah.
I mean,
I don't know if I mean, like, Expelliarmus being Harry's signature move. I mean, I
I mean,
guess.
it's what worked against Voldemort in the graveyard in front of all the Death
Yeah.
Eaters to save his life. And I think he did it like more than once. So, yeah, I kind of see that.
Mm.
And it's also the first thing that he teaches everybody in the DA and stuff,
Yeah.
although they wouldn't know about that, but still we do.
Yeah.
Like,
I feel like Expelliarmus is such a common early spell that you learn.
I think that's part of it though, right? If they have other grown witches or wizards
Yeah,
pretending to be Harry,
that's true. Now that's a good point. Yeah.
um
Yeah, like what
so
adult fighting them is going to lean so heavily on such a early, you know, kind of
exactly,
spell
yeah.
where they would just be whipping out something much more dangerous and maybe even complicated. Hmm.
Um so yeah, I mean, I think that change is fine for the movie because explaining that would be kind of they didn't set up the Expelliarmus thing in the movies again the way that it's set up in the book, so it wouldn't have meant the same thing to the audience, I don't think. Um and then comes the wedding. And when like Harry isn't in disguise here. He's just out there being Harry at the wedding,
Now is
which I totally get for the sake of the movie, but it just makes me so anxious to see it.
I was wondering if we're just because there's no scene like they could have set it up that he's in disguise and then just had him be Harry on screen for the sake of the audience, but they
Sure.
don't even do that.
Mm-mm.
Like it wouldn't have been that hard to just you know
I feel like they couldn't do that because later on in the movie, they have the three of them taking polyjuice to enter the ministry. And they're not going to have everybody being different people on camera for that scene, but still have Harry be Harry despite his disguise in this scene. Do you get what I mean?
yeah I don't. Well, then just having him not in disguise at all, I don't know. I was willing to chalk it up to I don't know. I don't know.
I
It's a
think what
weird
we're
choice.
supposed to think is just that anybody invited to this wedding are in our inner circle and we can trust them implicitly. Which, for the sake of the movie, sure, I guess. You know, like it's simpler that way, but um yeah. Um but the wedding scene is when he meets oh god, what is his name? Doge,
Mhm.
and gets to hear a little bit more about Dumbledore. I thought his acting in this scene was pretty good. Like the kind of shock on his face as he hears more and more and is just like, what in the fuck is this? I had no idea. Like he really just looks heartbroken. And I was pleasantly surprised because I didn't remember this scene affecting me particularly when I watched this the first time. But when I saw it this time, I don't know, I think with all of the revelations of sexual assault in regarding people that we otherwise really liked and looked up to in a way, I was feeling it a little bit more this time. This sort of like, but I liked that guy. What?
Yeah.
Kind of moment, you know?
Yeah. I it they don't he doesn't Dodge doesn't tell him as much backstory as we get in the book, right?
Not at all.
But considering that, I felt like they still managed to make the moment really feel like it was, shocking to Harry.
Yes.
Um
Yeah.
but you kind
Yeah, and Auntie Muriel is also there. And she's the one who's like, "Did you actually know him at all?" And that's how that scene ends, is her just like being like, "Bitch, who are you?" And then they get interrupted by Kingsley Shacklebolt's Patronus, which gave me actual goosebumps this time when I watched
Oh,
it.
did it really?
It did. That moment of just the ministry has fallen. Scrimgeour is dead. They are coming. And then he disappears, and I was just like, whoo. And they have to escape very quickly to some busy street that Hermione just thinks of because her parents and her went to the theater. And this is when we get the fight scene in the coffee shop, which is my personal favorite fight scene in like the whole
Yeah,
series for some
this was
reason.
really good.
Wasn't it
Hmm
though?
I liked especially when Hermione just tells the girl to run. It
Mm-hmm.
it felt like a big action movie, you know, like one of those
Mm-hmm.
moments. Um, yeah, it was pretty good.
I think what got me about this is that this is the only time where we really see something like this happening in the Muggle world. Everything else is mostly safely confined to wizarding locations. You know, we have things happen, like fights happening at the burrow. We have the fight happening on the way to the burrow in the air, but it's out of sight of muggles, because they're so high up.
Hmm
And we have like the attacks on muggles, but they aren't aware that there are wizards doing this stuff, like breaking bridges and causing
Yeah,
hurricanes and
yeah,
whatever.
and here we just have like a shop girl, you know, turn around and see what she probably can't even, doesn't even
Hmm.
have words for like how do you explain to somebody what you just watched?
And it happened so fast. They're sitting talking, and then all of a sudden Harry yells, "Get down." And the words aren't even out of his mouth before one of them is firing on him.
Hmm
I think that was part of it too, just that it felt so, it felt like there was a real threat in that scene
Yeah,
because of how quickly everything goes down and how much damage they're doing as they're firing shots back
yeah.
and forth to each other.
That's the other thing too that we don't really, I don't think we see a lot of. They're like when you talk about like just the damage that they're doing. A lot of
Mhm.
times when we see like the wizards fight, it's like one shoots at one, and then one uses like a protect spell, and the the force of the spell kind of dissipates. But
Mhm.
this until we get to like the big fight scene, of course, at Hogwarts. But in this scene, you tables are smashing everywhere, and glasses breaking, and it
Yep.
feels like, for instance, the big fight with McGonagall and Snape later. And there's
Right.
all this power between the two of them, and she's, whipping these spells at him, and he's, bouncing them back and back.
Mhm.
Um, they just kind of are going off, they're just going off to the left and to the right, and Snape's not hurt, and he poofs out the window. But this is such a
Right.
close quarters fight, and
Mhm.
I don't know, it just is very, like, the energy in it is very explosive, like, pun not intended, but you know what I mean?
Yeah. And the girl, like, because you were saying, like, how do you explain what you saw? But she doesn't actually see anything. Like, she's facing the counter and has her headphones
Yeah,
on.
but she turns around.
She turns around and comes out after the damage is done and just drops her cups in shock because there are these men on the ground and the place is busted up. So, as far as she knows, that was gunfire.
No, yeah, I guess she doesn't see anything.
It could just, so they kind of just miss, like, really getting somebody else, like exposing themselves to somebody, because she just happened to not see any of it, which is not particularly, like, that's not explicitly said in the books, but I really enjoy the addition of this surly fucking waitress in this scene. She just comes out and is just like, "Coffee, you?" And then just like turns on her heel and fucking stomps off like she just would give anything to be literally anywhere else right now. I just really enjoy her. Um okay, so then they have Hermione do Obliviate on these two dudes instead of killing them, which they should
Which
do,
is Ron.
right?
Ron, suggests,
Mhm.
but they're not listening to him.
I side with Ron. I get why they're not doing it, but and it's really sad because she just, the last time she did Obliviate was on her parents, and now she has to do it again, and you can see this moment on her face. And watching it this time was the first time that I really saw that and realized what they were doing with her character of her having to do this again, and it's really sad. um
I was like when she goes to do it, you
Mm-hmm.
can, and you like you said, you see her struggling. It's a
Mm-hmm.
quiet moment,
Yeah.
I think it's something that could easily be missed because they don't overdo it, they don't have her
Mm-hmm.
break down and be like, oh, I can't, I can't, I mustn't, she
Yeah.
stands up to do it without really, I say without hesitation, meaning like she knows she has to do it. There's no argument that she has to do it. But it's like
Right.
the tiniest bit of a tremble,
Yeah,
Yeah,
definitely.
it was well done. It was really well done.
Um, so I'm gonna skip over some things. I think there's a lot of like good stuff in here,
But
but then there's things like
then
Creature.
did they skip? I was gonna say you're gonna like the
Ugh,
movie skipped over.
right. I just that just breaks my heart so much
Yeah,
because in particular I was looking forward to
yeah,
that.
same.
And this is a long movie, so I'm not gonna fault them too much. This particular movie, because there's a comment, I think it's Sarah Nink who's like, they say they don't have time, but you burn down the burrow in the last one. Well, that was in the last one though. Like this movie is 2.5 hours or something. So I get having to cut things in this movie, but it doesn't mean I don't regret that they had to do that because Creature's story is just so. It's a small bright moment in this bleak fucking book.
Yeah,
Um.
and it also answers some questions that we needed answering,
Mm-hmm.
which I think the movie just has them see his name on the door, and how does it? Let's see. They see Romulus, is that his name?
Uh.
Regulus.
Regulus.
They see
Yeah.
his name on the door, put it together that those are the initials on the locket, and then have Creature go retrieve the locket from Mundungus, right?
Right. And Creature does tell them about how I tried to destroy it. Sir Regulus told me to destroy it, and I couldn't do it no matter what I did. It wouldn't. It. I couldn't do it. So he does tell us that Regulus was the one, and that but there's no backstory about Sirius being a dick to him, and the reason that he was so loyal, and there's no transformation in him with Harry realizing that all you need to do is like be a decent person to this guy
Mm-hmm.
and he will be your friend
Mm-hmm.
and support
Yeah,
you.
we don't
Like,
get any of that. All we get really is just that he has to do what Harry says because he's the master of the house now.
mm-hmm.
There's no change in him. And I guess it could be argued that he, it doesn't matter if we know, that Harry is nice to him and that Creature responds to that because
I lost you
uh,
completely there.
it does saying it doesn't matter if we know about Creature's backstory and his transformation because at the end of the day he has to do what Harry says regardless. But I
Right.
think it's important um, to have a distinction between just him doing what Harry says because he has to, and the fact that um, he's made a choice at the end.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, it's a combination of we want our hero to not be utilizing slavery, uh, and also wouldn't you like to have a lesson in this where it just turns out that being a nice person gets you things too? um
I'm thinking now too about the idea of making time for this sort of stuff in the movie, and I'm wondering, I'm trying to like, I'm thinking, what could they have taken out to make room for this? And just
mhm.
trying to like, do a quick inventory if there's stuff that I would have been like, yeah, you could lose this.
That's part of what I was paying attention to on the rewatch, and this movie feels so packed to me that the only things that I feel like you could cut are the montages of their traveling later, and I just feel like that's so
Yeah,
important to the
yeah.
tone of everything.
And I feel like that was kind of cut down already.
It really was, yeah. And also, like, we were talking earlier about the timing with Tonks's pregnancy, and it's not apparent in the movie how much time they spend at Grimmauld Place because it feels like, go straight from there and finding out about the locket to the
Yeah,
ministry.
that shit
In the
that
books,
happens.
they're there for a month or
Yeah,
something before.
I was watching
Yeah,
it like shit. That was really fast.
yeah,
And not necessarily in a critical way, but just in a like, well, holy shit, that was fast. Like, all right,
yeah,
the
yeah.
story is really moving along here.
Um, so then we go to the ministry with them all transformed, and it's these other actors playing them, playing the actor, which is pretty
Yeah, that's
fun.
always going to be fun, I think. I like that.
Same. And the guy who plays Yaxley, the Death Eater with the long blonde braid, who comes and like yells at Ron's character and
Yes.
is like, "I'm going to interrogate your wife." He's real
Yeah.
creepy.
I,
I feel like that actor's really
I
good.
love how attached to his wife Ron gets.
Oh my god. He's got my wife, she's all alone. Uh, and there's this whole, thing with Harry going and rummaging through Umbridge's office, yada yada yada, and then going down, and it's instead of like the method in the book where the whole thing is that they're trying to steal Umbridge's locket without her noticing that it's gone. In this, they just straight up like let her know, "Hey, we're here, bitch," and take that shit and
really
run.
do, don't they? And I was
Yep.
like, is this how it happened in the book? And I didn't.
I lost you again. I don't. All I heard was.
That's pretty much all I said. You didn't miss anything. Because I didn't want to comment in the thread because sometimes my memory is really fucked and but I was like, because all right. They're, where are they? They're in the dungeon court, whatever's happening down there. And
Right.
in the book, how does it happen?
In the book, Harry. Let's see. Harry comes in and he's disguised as this other dude. Hermione says something like, "Oh, I love your locket, Dolores. Where did you get it?" And she's still looking like, what's her name? I can't remember the character that she's into. And then, all right, I'm trying to remember exactly what it is. Hold on, I'm looking this up now because what I remember is that they had a fake.
They did like a switch.
That they replaced it
like
with.
a switcheroo. Yeah.
Yes, exactly.
That's what I thought too. And I mean, it's pretty exciting this way, and we get that killer chase scene with them trying to get out of the ministry, which was awesome to watch.
I mean, and the thing is, like, even if they do get chased in the book too. Like, it's not like it just is a slower realization that the ministry has been infiltrated. I think what really gives it away in the book is what Reggie Cattermole showing up. And in the movie, they have it obvious that they're running immediately. And Reggie is who gives it away on that particular floor.
Yeah.
But on other floors, they're very aware and trying to follow them. And Harry, I think, has like created a bit of a barrier with all of those Dementors in the hallway. I don't know what's going on with Chrome lately, but it will not load like a bunch of different pages for me anymore. Like, they just go blank. This one on Regulus Black's locket is like, just black. I don't know why.
The irony.
Oh, I get why now. There's a friggin' video that's like, I am so tired of pop-up videos that just play.
I thought you did the thing where that doesn't happen anymor because you talk about that all the time. I thought you fixed that.
I had to disable it in order to make the friggin' thing work again. When we were using Hangouts.
Oh.
So it just like completely just makes me crazy. Yeah, so I can't find the thing. I'm sorry.
That's all right.
Open.
So, but you're right. They end up getting chased out of the ministry in the book as well. But it takes longer. Mm-hmm. So, but they end up in the same place. They end up fleeing and taking, what's his name? Reggie? and Mary
Yeah.
out with the
Yes.
um also too, I just saw your comment when the way Harry is walking as whoever this guy
Oh,
is
is
that
that
he's
so funny?
playing.
I love that so much. It's just so like it's such a weird little detail, but it is so funny to me. So then they escape. Ron gets splinched, and then we have the beginning of mutinous,
Yeah,
angry, fucking cranky
yeah.
Ron.
His face, his eyes, he looks
Mm-hmm.
like a crazy person.
I feel like he doesn't get the credit he deserves as an actor because it doesn't feel like he's acting, so he gets overlooked a little bit.
Yeah.
But he is legit great in this role in all the movies. He always it feels so effortless
Mm-hmm.
all the time, just like, no, that's just probably him being who he is, like that. I don't think that I just think he doesn't get the credit he deserves, man. Like when he's looking angry, he really just looks like he does not want to be on set today. That's like the overall look he's got is just like, I fucking hate this. And I finally get to just show it because I hate it here and I hate you. And it is hard to watch. And then we have my favorite part
The
of
montage.
yeah. And Ron whispering to Hermione he doesn't know what he's doing, does he? And then they are far enough away that Harry can't hear them exactly, but we go over to Harry and you can tell he knows they're talking about him.
Mm-hmm.
And he's just like looking back at them, kind of huddled together. And I thought that really got across that moment in the books where he's getting super paranoid. And part of that is wearing the locket as much as he does. Yeah. It feeds into the worst fears and paranoias that he has about his friends and their loyalty to him and how much they doubt him and how badly he's doing and letting them down. But yeah, so then finally Ron goes off because Harry and Hermione are having a bit of a brainstorm regarding finding the next Horcrux, and he is off in the other part of the tent just listening to them planning and getting excited without him.
Yes.
And comes in and is like, oh, it's fine, I saw you two the other night too. Because they're just, Ron's attitude is so bad that they're naturally just leaving him the fuck alone. That's what happens when you're a dick and insufferable, is people don't want to talk to you.
And then you turn it around in your own head into something it's not, which is also what happens when you're an insufferable dick.
Yes. Correct. So yeah, this is this scene, he finally just like bails and gives Hermione this like chance to come with him.
Yeah. When he leaves,
she's just like,
this whole scene I thought was really good. I mean, they ratcheted up the emotion like to 100 in this scene. And I think because we know we give Ron so much shit, and if I recall, I was kind of over Ron at this point because in the books this really does go on forever.
Yeah.
So I remember kind of being like, fuck you, then go.
Right. Yeah. Which is where Harry's at also.
But seeing it, I was like, oh, shit, is he really gonna leave them? Like, you can't leave. It's Ron, Hermione, and Harry. That's that's how it goes. You can't just leave. And then he left. I was surprised at how affected I was by it.
Yeah, I think that's fair. And then he left. So then we get the scene that I'm not a big fan of, but I'm pretty much alone in that.
Yeah, It was,
which is Hermione and
yeah,
Harry
it
dancing.
was really awkward at the beginning. And also I had no idea where it was going. I mean, I knew it wasn't going any place like a kiss or anything, but it was
Right.
just, it was so unexpected. And I was just like,
Mm-hmm.
what is happening right now? But there was something really, really sweet about him trying to, make her feel better and also kind of like be close to her
Mm-hmm.
um and comfort her in the middle of all this terribleness that's going on that just got 100 times more terrible because Ron has left. There was just
Right.
something really sweet about it.
I think what honestly makes me not like the scene is the song.
Oh.
Because for me, Harry wanting to dance to that song did not make any sense to me. That is not a dancing song. It's a bummer song. Like, it's supposed to be kind of an uplifting moment, but that song doesn't feel uplifting to me.
I'm going to be
It's
totally honest.
just,
I don't remember anything about the song really.
yeah, it's kind of like there's a real mournful quality to it, despite it being a little bit more fast paced. And it's very anthemic,
Oh, you know
which I
what?
can understand
Everything you
the
just
like,
said describes my entire Spotify playlist.
oh
Those
man,
exact words. It's more
mournful and
and
anthemic.
upbeat. Like a lot of the shit I listen to is like if you read the lyrics, you're like, well, oh my god, they all want to kill themselves. But the music doesn't actually relay that. Yeah. So
The music to me in this does relay that, because I don't even know what the lyrics are.
mm.
Um, but it's very like tambourine heavy and it's
That's a real
like,
song you're humming, isn't it?
yeah, that's the
That's the
song.
song.
I don't know the
Are you
lyrics, but
sure?
that's
Is
what
that
it.
the song?
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
That doesn't seem right. That sounds like a different song. That sounds like a actual song that exists.
It is a song that
Is
exists.
it? All right, let's
Yeah.
take a moment because now
Dance song Deathly Hallows. Nick Cave and the Bad
that is
Seeds.
my jammy jam.
Oh my god.
I'm all up and down in my shit.
It's called Oh Children. Oh Children is the name
I
of it. I'm trying to find the
I didn't
lyrics.
even really peep that that's who it was, but holy shit, it all
Uh
makes sense now.
Pass me that lovely little gun, my dear, my darling one. The cleaners are coming one by one. You don't even want to let them start. They're knocking now upon your door. They measure the room. They know the score. They're mopping up the butcher's floor of your broken little hearts.
Listen, people listening. This is look.
Oh, children, forgive us now for what we've done. It started out as a bit of fun. Here, take these before we run away. The keys to the
Oh
gulag.
my god. Yes. Yes. Yes.
Children, lift up your voice, children, rejoice, rejoice. Come on, come on, come on, come on. Here comes Frank and poor old Jim. They're gathering round with all my friends. We're older now, the light is dim, and you are only just beginning. Children, we have the answer to all your fears. It's short, it's simple, it's crystal clear, it's roundabout, it's somewhere here, lost among our winnings. There are so many verses to this. I just like clicked the thing to like open the rest of it, and there are 6 more
I can't
fucking
believe I didn't
verses.
recognize that that's what was playing. I'll have to listen. Have to go back and replay that scene and then listen to the actual song. Um, but yeah, so yeah, that's what kind of music I like, guys. In case you were wondering.
Yeah, so like this for me was not a song that really made sense to me, that Harry's like, I'm gonna get up and dance with Hermione to this right now.
Well, you've never been to any
And
alternative nights and golf nights.
I have not been to many concerts, period. Like, concerts are not my jam. I do not like music by one artist all night. It's just not really my thing. But yeah, so I understand like the point of needing a moment of levity, of Harry trying to cheer her. I like the whole aim of the scene I totally get that. I think it's legit. It just didn't work for me because of the song, I think. And I don't think they could have inserted like a Beyonce song. Like, how tonally would that fucking work? So I get what they were trying to do, and I also can't think of a better way to do it. I don't know what song would have made me believe the moment, but also wouldn't have taken me straight up out of it. So, I'm just kind of impossible for this part. No pleasing. That's where I stand on that. So then they go back to Godric's Hollow. And here comes that part with Snake Lady.
Yeah.
What'd you think of this whole sequence?
I was a little disappointed in the Snake and Matilda reveal. I thought it was, I mean, it was good, but I thought it would be, I almost want to say gorier. But okay, so what happens is, and it probably makes more sense that it did this way in the movie. Really, what happens is that once it's revealed that it's really like Nagini, the Matilda costume almost like just falls around the snake, right? And I had pictured a much more the snake exiting out of the body, as opposed to the body just sort of draped, like dropping around to the bottom of the snake, if that makes any sense.
Yeah, I mean, in the book, her neck opens up. Like, her head lolls back and her neck opens. So it is a much more gory, horrifying horror movie moment. But yeah, that is they really toned that down for the movie. So I agree. I think that when I first saw it, I was really excited to see how they were going to do that, and they just kind of didn't. So I completely get what you mean about that. So other than that, like, what did you think about the woman who played Matilda? Because I thought she was super creepy.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what her deal is in normal life, like how much makeup and special, what was going on there. But she looked like she all right. So she doesn't talk through the whole thing, right? The whole scene, which is creepy enough. But just even looking at her, she looked like she wasn't alive. I thought. I thought she looked like a corpse walking them through town. Yeah, it was really unsettling. And it's funny because they did it without, like, she wasn't rotting, but I thought she was clearly dead. And they were able to like convey that.
I agree completely. Yeah. I'm just thinking about that moment when she's like in the middle of she's in the house and leaning over him trying to light the candle, and he takes it and says he'll do it for her, but she's like 4 inches from his face staring at him as he lights the candle. It's just so fucking creepy. Oh God. So they managed to get out of there in like the nick of time, and Harry loses his wand, which I completely had forgotten happens.
Oh yeah.
And poor Harry is trying to like be like, it's done. Just give me yours while I'm on watch.
Does she remind me? Does she show him his broken wand in this scene? Because I feel like, why do people keep breaking Harry's shit and then bringing it to him in like shambles?
Well, it turns out to be a good thing because in the book he puts his own wand back together, but like it is the same thing basically as his broomstick. Like, and it's even Hermione who does it in the books for both. Like, she's just the bearer of bad fucking news for Harry. Yikes. So then after that really awful moment, we have a brief moment of joy and happiness. The silver doe leads Harry to the pool, and he doesn't think about it and wears the locket as he jumps into freezing water.
Can I stop here and ask you a question that I'm sure I asked you a year ago, and I just can't remember the answer?
Okay.
How does Snape know where they are? Is it just that you can send your Patronus to anywhere, right? Is that how it works?
I don't remember. I'm
I
seeing
feel like the answer
how.
was super made sense too, and I just can't because Shackleford. Well, no, because he knew where the wedding was, so that's a terrible example.
Um, how did Snape find Harry in the Forest of Dean? Here we go. Um, this question answers how Snape knew they were there. Okay, I'm finding it. How does he find him? Harry asked Hermione where they were after they disapparate. Hermione was poking in her beaded bag for the tent, and Phineas Nigellus's portrait heard her mention it. Do you remember that part?
Hmm. No.
Do you remember that?
No.
Phineas Nigellus's portrait is in the headmaster's office, and there's one the from Grimmauld Place, and she brought it with her in order to ask him information. Remember, they would take it out
Oh, that's
sometimes in the
right.
tent.
That's right. That's right.
So she was opening her bag, and
That's right. Okay. That's not in the movie at all.
no, it is not.
Okay.
And yeah, I forgot about this because Phineas says, headmaster, they're camping in the Forest of Dean, the mudblood, and Snape cuts him off and says, do not use that word. The Granger girl
That's
then
right.
mentioned the place. Yeah.
Okay.
So that's how that happens. I completely forgot.
Yeah, I completely forgot that she took the portrait with them and like talked to it
Yeah.
several times during the course of all this shit. I forgot all about that. Huh. What else did they use? Nope, nope. That'll get us on a sidetrack. Never mind. Because now I'm thinking of what other stuff did they not have in the movie that I just forgot about. But that is a conversation for another time. We'll talk about it. We'll talk about it
Indeed.
in Orlando.
So, okay. The scene where Ron jumps in and saves Harry and then has to kill the Horcrux is pretty awesome.
Yeah.
I thought this was done really, really well. I watched again special features, or I watched an interview or something, and I think Sarah mentions they had to be covered in silver paint in order to film this. But also, Daniel Radcliffe said that Emma Watson was like eating his face. Like that she went so hard on kissing him that it was like almost knocked him down. And you can see, if you know that already and you watch that scene again, she is like up on him hard.
Oh.
And it's really funny to me. Which I think she probably did on purpose because it's supposed to be Ron's worst fear.
Yeah.
And Hermione, being the really enthusiastic one, would be the worst, right? Like, just like, give it to me. And the way that she's like, who would look at you?
Oh, yeah. Oh, and this goes on for a few beats to where you're almost like, oh shit, is he gonna be able to do it?
Yeah.
He looks shook. But
and they have the locket like right near Harry's head, so when he rushes forward, it looks like he could just be ready to
it could go
Harry.
either way.
Yep. But he manages to do it. I do wish that they had that moment where Harry's like, I didn't know that you were even worried about that. It's just not like that between us. But they don't have him like have that conversation, you know?
From the way this goes I don't know if it's clear that Harry could even see what Ron is seeing.
That's true. From the yeah, you're right. Because it sort of projects outward toward Ron past Harry. So yeah, you're right. So then they go back. There's this moment that I think is really funny where Harry, is bummed that his wand's broken, and Ron has an extra one, and Harry decides to test it out on the flames that Hermione made. And he says Ingorgio, and the flames start shooting up to the ceiling. And Harry immediately, Reducio! And the way he says it so fast, Ingorgio, Reducio! Like, it's just like one word. Oh, that makes me crack up. And then Hermione sees him. Well, I jumped forward for that little moment, but Hermione's greeting of Ron, I use greeting loosely. How did you think this went?
It was completely appropriate. And I love that, it's a couple of scenes where he's just like agreeing with her, with everything she says, because he's just ready for her not to be mad at him anymore.
Yep.
And even though we still haven't gotten to Ron and Hermione being a thing in the movies,
Right.
Anyway, but it's so clear the way she reacts to him showing back up. That is how you react.
Yep.
That kind of, you're so happy that they're back, but you're so pissed that they could even leave, and the nerve of them, and you've been gone however long you've been gone, and how do you think you're just gonna walk back in here like everything is okay? Yeah, it was pretty great.
Just keep on talking about little balls of light touching your heart, and I think you'll be fine. So then they decide that it's time to go to talk to Mr. Lovegood, and they find out about the Deathly Hallows, and we get the animation of the Tale of the Three Brothers.
Loved this. I mean,
isn't that the coolest?
Yeah, I'd seen it before, but it's so neat. Yeah, I'm trying to think it's like the way all the figures are drawn, where they're just kind of like black blocks, they're just silhouettes of people. It's almost like old, I want to say like old timey, but it doesn't really 100% match up to what I'm trying to convey. But there's just something about it that seems very old fashioned. And it reminds me of something from when I was a kid that I cannot put my finger on. But when I watched it on YouTube and then watching it in the movie, it is a very specific thing it reminds me of, and I just cannot place it.
Yeah, I like the silhouette thing because it really sort of is shorthand for being like, these characters aren't what's important. You don't need to worry about them. It's about what happens. It's about them being archetypes.
Yes,
yeah. And I just think that was a really smart idea on the part of the illustrator. But yeah, it is so cool. And I know a lot of people have gotten moments from that tattooed on them.
Would. Like, if there was ever going to be anything from these books that I would do, that is right up there with it. With, like, the choices that I would make. And I think I like what you just said about them not being new characters that are being introduced. You have to be concerned with that they are just sort of archetypes. And if you give them faces, you kind of lose that.
Right, definitely.
And I don't know, it's really easy to imagine yourself in one of their shoes when they're just sort of silhouettes like that.
Yeah, I think that's a good point too, is that it's meant to be like teaching you a lesson. And the whole point of that is to not have it be about someone else that you can distance yourself from. Yeah. So, and Mr. Lovegood is appropriately like nervous and creepy and weird.
Yeah, there's some stuff in the scene that doesn't get me. Isn't there wasn't he building some kind of diadem?
Yes. Yeah, he was. It was like, had like two horns on the side. It was some weird thing. But yeah, that was kind of what put the whole thought in Harry's mind later.
Right. Was that in the movie? No, right? Okay. Because
sure
then when we watch part 2, and Luna is the one who responds about what a diadem is and all that. And the history, or I don't know if it's history or if it's like lore or rumor, whatever the deal is with the Ravenclaw diadem. I felt like that
Legend.
legend. That's a word. That's a good word. That is the word I was looking for. Um, it felt like that was a callback to something, but but it was something that wasn't included in the movie.
Right, yeah. Um so and yeah, in the book, it's like she gives Harry the idea for it, but she doesn't actually like just give him information. It's not like that. She's talking about how her father's trying to remake the lost diadem, and then Harry's like, "Wait, what?"
Mm-hmm.
But in this, it's her and Cho Chang who are both just like, "Yeah, well, it's a thing." What? Um so then they the Death Eaters who are trying to get them show up, and they have to bail. And I think that this chase scene is pretty great because it's done with almost no music initially, and it's just them sprinting flat the fuck
Yeah,
out through the
yeah.
woods and shooting spells over their shoulders and getting spells shot at them, and the spells hitting trees and their footsteps and their breathing and the sound of wood breaking and
People
splintering.
are
And
tripping and falling and
yep, I love this chase scene. I really do. It's one of those things that I kind of forget about because it's a footnote really in the overall story. It's not a big thing, but it feels so real and tense in that moment, and they do get caught,
yeah.
um and Harry gets his face blown out by Hermione, and they get brought back to Malfoy Manor, and then this whole thing. We do not get Wormtail strangling
No, we
himself
don't.
though.
Which, as much as I hated seeing Wormtail on screen because he grosses me the fuck out. I
He's
It is
gross.
so gross that like I shouldn't even be as gross out because I am 100% aware that it is just fucking makeup. But it gets under my skin in a real way.
Right.
But that scene with him strangling himself is so satisfying and also disturbing. And I
Mm-hmm.
kind of wanted to see it on screen, but I also am not surprised it wasn't included.
Yeah, I'm not. It's a pretty brutal
Exactly,
thing.
exactly.
Everybody else who dies in this, it tends to be a pretty like the only people who get slower deaths are people that we like and sympathize with to pull at our heartstrings. And having it be a real slow, brutal death of somebody that we also
Mm-hmm.
hate, I feel like the movie was just like, I don't know if we want to like go in that
Yeah, yeah.
direction.
It seems almost a little too like enjoying the suffering of a character we dislike, which kind of makes us awful, you know.
Right.
But I wanted to enjoy that because maybe I am awful.
Oh, that's fair. Um, so let's see. Oh, then we get the showdown and Dobby dying.
Oh man.
Mm, I mean, I know that for a lot of people, like the fact that he had to weep over a puppet was like took something away from it for them, but not for me. I think that puppet's still pretty good.
I
And it just
Yeah.
this was super
Yeah, they
heartbreaking.
could have lingered a little more on Harry's face and a little less on Puppet Dobby for my liking.
Mm-hmm.
But that said, it didn't take away anything for me, you know.
Yeah.
It still just fucking pulls your heart right through your chest, I think. Um,
Uh,
and yeah, the way because and we know because we all read the books, but when they disapparate out of Malfoy Manor and
yeah.
Bellatrix just like whips that knife, and I love Bellatrix. She is really fun to watch on screen. Um, but that's just a side note. When she whips
Mm-hmm.
that knife in, and we don't know right away who's been hit or if anyone's been hit. And then you come out the other side and everyone's okay, and have they all like spring up, where's everybody? And then finally Dobby stands up and there's just blood all over the front of his little smock. Yeah, it was awful.
Yeah. And his line, such a beautiful place to be with friends, is just brutal and it's making me want to cry right now. I think maybe that'll be what I put on the shirt for the trip.
So we could all cry?
Yeah, so I could just spread this pain around.
It is a good quote, though, for a trip to be taken with a bunch of friends to fucking Wizarding World.
Right? I think it's kind of perfect. Ugh, but I'm crying now. So yeah, that's awful. And we go from there to fucking Voldemort opening Dumbledore's tomb and getting the wand. And that's the last scene in the movie, is fucking Dobby dying and Dumbledore winning.
How long was it between movies?
A year.
So that must have been terrible.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, when he shoots the wand up into the sky in triumph and then it just goes to credits, I was sitting there like, what? Oh, what? Like, I took it personally. I was upset about it. And part of that was just, I was, because in the other movies, I was so focused on how mad I was about so many changes that I couldn't get into the movie and just lose myself in it. But this one, I really did. So when it just suddenly ended, I wasn't ready for it at all. I was just like, wait! And it's a great spot to end it. I think it was well done. But Jesus, God.
Yeah, that really is a great part in the book to stop. It's like almost like it was written for a movie to end right there.
Yeah.
But I can't imagine being in the theaters and just being like, I have to wait a year.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, if you have the books, you're all right, but still, you just want to see it.
That's what I mean. Like, not so much sitting on the edge of your seat because you can't wait you don't know what's going to happen, but sitting on the edge of your seat because you can't wait to see what's going to happen,
So the next movie opens up at Shell Cottage, right where we left off, pretty much. And Harry is focusing on going to talk to Griphook. And it is the same actor who plays Flitwick. And he is really awesome as Griphook, I think.
Yeah, I agree. I thought that was the same actor who I think he died this year or last year.
Did he?
Warwick
Davies, right?
Yeah, I think he died.
It just says his birth date.
Oh, maybe he didn't die.
So I don't think so.
I'm sure he did. Maybe I'm thinking of the guy.
I don't know. He really gets across this like low key, not malevolence. It's not an active like hatred. It's just this sort of.
It's a very self-serving kind of. I don't want to say that he's not trustworthy, though clearly he wasn't.
No.
But there was I don't know, kind of like
there's these long pauses that I'm like,
I'm trying to think of what kind of like I almost said indifference. That's not quite right either, because he definitely has a stake in it. Like he's in it for something, so he's not indifferent. But it's not malevolent. It's not. I don't know.
Yeah, like aloofness. That's not right.
Yeah, it's not right.
You get what I'm trying to say.
I do, but why can't we find the words? We're big fans of words. Words are not big fans of ours.
We're big fans of words. Yeah, that sounds convincing. Yeah, Harry goes and talks to him about what the deal is with the sword, and he goes and talks to Ollivander about the wand lore, and it's an amazing moment where Ollivander tries to be like, oh, I don't know about and Harry's like, listen, you little bitch, I know what you said, just be straight with me and I will just be straight with you, because I know that you told him everything.
Yeah. So, can we take a minute and talk about wand lore for a second?
Let us take a moment.
Let us take a moment. So, because Harry goes and has to explain everything at the very end of the movie, which I appreciated that. Thank you, Harry. But, so it's like they don't have to disarm or take the actual wand out of the hands of the person, right?
Correct.
They just have to disarm the person.
Correct.
Which, I don't know. Does that feel right?
This is something that I think is really the weak link in the books, that she decided to add this rule after it apparently not being a thing in any of the other books, when they've practiced disarming people and whatever. It doesn't seem like their wands changed allegiance then.
Right. And it's very possible I'm misunderstanding, because I am wont to do that. But it sounds like it's because, all right, so let's follow the Elder Wand.
Okay.
Right. So my understanding is that Dumbledore had it, but Draco disarmed him, and that makes Draco the actual owner of the wand.
Yes.
Right?
Right.
Even though
the master
of the wand, even though
right.
the wand itself was buried with Dumbledore.
Correct.
So when Harry disarmed Draco and took his wand, that was not the Elder Wand.
No.
Right?
Like, he disarmed, but the wand knows.
That's what I'm getting to. So yeah. Even though Harry disarmed Draco when he was nowhere near having the Elder Wand, just the fact that Draco was out in these streets losing wands was enough to make the actual Elder Wand change its allegiance to whoever it was who most recently was able to disarm Draco.
Correct.
So it's like the magic. I don't know if magic is not the right word I'm looking for, but the magic of owning the wand is tied to the person and whatever wands they own.
Correct.
Which I don't know if I like that. It doesn't matter at this point if I like it or not. But yeah, I don't think I like that.
I completely understand. Like, I feel like she barely pulls it off within the story, making that work.
Yeah.
And if somebody wants to sit there and poke holes in it, they absolutely can.
Yeah.
And it's just the goodwill of her readers that allows that to, yeah, you know, like, she has enough built up that she can cash some of that in for some of this weak stuff here and with the Hallows themselves, and the whole idea that the, like, cloak has been a Hallow this whole time.
Did they ever say that in the movies? Does anyone ever go?
Nobody ever talks about the cloak in that context in the movies, no.
Yeah. Again, not a huge deal. Just asking. The only saving grace about this patchy wand lore is that I guess if you wanted to be generous, you could say, well, it's not just about, who is in literal possession of the wand, but who is worthy of possession of the wand, and that the wand somehow decides you are no longer worthy if you are bested by anyone in any circumstance. I guess so. But again, that's being super generous.
So that's, yeah, I understand your misgivings, and I even agree with them to a degree. And like I said, I just feel like a lot of it is simply that we're willing to give her a benefit of the doubt.
Yeah, especially at this point in the story.
Things. Yeah.
Like, this is no time to be nitpicking, we're at the, this is it. We're at the fucking finale at this point. This is no time to be going backwards. And so I completely understand why we would all, me included, just be like, okay, so that's one thing she didn't get 100% right. But moving on.
Exactly.
Moving on.
All right. So Then and we have that moment that we both made fun of where Ollivander's like, he's after you.
Oh my God.
Fucking duh, genius. Like, what are you doing? Come on. Where have you been, buddy? And Hermione then becomes what's her face? Bellatrix in order to break into Gringotts.
This is the best.
This is so funny to me. I really like this part. And they do change it up from the books because she has Bellatrix's wand and uses it as her identification in the books, which is part of what gives them away. And I think in the movie, I don't know that she has the wand, does she?
I don't think so.
I don't think so, because they ask her for it and she's like,
Yeah.
I don't think I need to do that, do I?
The whole the battle in part one when they escape from Malfoy Manor. Fuck, I'm trying to remember. She gets the wand then, right?
Yes.
Yeah, but I feel like that didn't happen in the movie.
I think that in the book, when Dobby like disarms Bellatrix, it goes flying through the air, and Harry and Hermione like catches it, and that's how.
Yeah, I don't think they included that. So yeah, when it happens, when they get to Gringotts, it's my wand. But why would you want to see my wand?
Yeah, yeah, because in the books, I think Bellatrix like yells at Dobby about him having the nerve to touch a wizard's wand. I think. So they finally have to Imperius this guy who's trying to catch their asses, and when they go down there, they've changed some of what this is. They do have the dragon looking fucked up. Oh, I felt for this dragon.
Yeah, he's all banged up.
Oh, it's so sad.
And
it
then
just hurts my heart.
When they end up flying him out later and you get kind of a close up, he's all these gnarly scars and shit on his body. It's terrible.
Yeah. But they have the multiplying charm on the items in the vault simply be a multiplying charm.
Yeah.
The items do not burn the shit out of you.
Yeah.
Which on the one hand, I'm like, come on.
Yeah.
And on the other hand, I'm like, that would have been awful to watch, though.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing. Like, it was really cool in the books, but I'm because he's swimming in fucking shit. That's terrible. That was terrible. Why would I say that? Guys, I'm so sorry.
Take it back.
But he's like swimming in her various trinkets and trophies and gold bullions that she has in there. And yeah, if it was on whatever the spell was that made it burn, that would have been too much. It just it'd have been way too much.
I just hate that you said that, though.
I'm sorry, but it happened.
He's swimming in shit. You know what? And Griphook finally is like, ha, I told you I'd get you here. Didn't say I'd get you out. And then he bails. And they have to find their way out before the thing closes up and steal a dragon to get out. And it's awesome.
It is pretty awesome.
I really enjoy it.
Part of me was like, so anybody can just jump on a dragon, huh? But you know what? I kept moving right past that. I didn't even let it slow me down.
I mean, the dragon just wants to get the fuck out of there.
Yeah, and it's
so as soon as he feels that he's loose, he's like, bye!
Yeah, and he's also so beaten down.
Yeah.
You know, between that and the fact that he sees this as his chance to bounce, like, he doesn't even care if he's got company or passengers.
Yeah. Oh, poor guy. So, and I don't think also, like, talking about things that didn't really sink in the book the same way, the way that this dragon gets out is so fucking dramatic, like busting up through the floor out the roof. Like, I don't think I really pictured the mayhem quite as adequately as I could have, because it is quite a big deal.
Yeah.
It's a spectacle. Um, so they flee from there because they stop and change out of their wet clothing. Uh, and they go to Hogsmeade because Harry has had a vision and realizes that the last one is at Hogwarts. And this is when they meet Aberforth, your least favorite part.
That is correct.
And we get absolutely no backstory.
Nope.
On what Aberforth's like grudge against Dumbledore is, or
yeah, the movies,
any of that.
The movies really weren't interested in adding that layer to Dumbledore, I think.
Nope. Agreed.
And I guess you could say time is an issue, but there were a couple of times where they kind of pussyfoot around Dumbledore's backstory. Mm-hmm. And they never, they just never really go there in the movies. And I feel like that was definitely a choice. Because again, to your earlier point, there's no time for that type of nuance, and we don't want our characters necessarily to be complicated, or have gray areas. We want people to be able to identify who is the good guy, and good guy he shall always remain. There shouldn't be any questioning of motivations, and it's really interesting because that is really Aberforth's purpose in the story, I think.
Yeah.
Is to show up at the end, even though we all know how I felt about that. But that's the thing. He shows up to make you think about all the shit that Dumbledore has done and how he's done it and why he's done it. And to kind of have someone give a voice to those things that may have just been nagging at the reader throughout, or maybe they never occurred to the reader. I know I had questions about Dumbledore throughout the series.
Right.
And then to have somebody come out and be like, hey, you're not 100% wrong. This is a grown man, putting these things in motion, not giving our hero all the information that he needs, being the sole decider on what information Harry gets and when he gets it. And that shit's fucked up. And the movie was just like, yeah, no, we're not going to be doing all that. We're just going to have you meet him because this is where the cool painting is.
Yeah, precisely. That's really, in summary, correct. Like, just that's where it is. Well, enjoy that. Yeah. I
mean, Jesus Christ, they took all that part out from way back in. It's not way back, but when Harry and Dumbledore go to the cave to get the locket. Every time they time they have a chance to examine or anything that has to do with Dumbledore, his past and his motivations, the movie just nopes right out.
Yeah.
At every turn. So I guess there's no reason to expect them to do it differently in this last one.
Yeah, I mean, they're just, we want our good guys and we want our bad guys, and that's about it. And it would be weird too, considering how much they didn't look at the layers of Snape, for them to look at the layers of Dumbledore all of a sudden.
Yeah.
So I guess,
and that's exactly what I mean. It's like they made a choice not to look at the layers, period.
Yeah.
So, and you know what? These are, at this point, maybe it doesn't seem fair to call them children's movies because, the characters have grown up. But really, these are, children's movies.
The movies are. I agree.
So.
Yeah. Okay, so Aberforth then meeting Neville, and his face being all fucked up, and you were saying like how much worse it is to see how bad things have gotten.
It was shocking to see them. I mean, they're tattered. They look like a band of ragamuffins, not kids at an elite private school. I think some of them are just dirty.
There's that too. Yeah.
Like they just they haven't been afforded the opportunity to bathe in weeks because of punishment or dungeons or whatever the fuck else is going on at Hogwarts right now. there's only a glancing mention of the Caros too, which,
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, that was some pretty solid villainy in the Caros.
Yeah, they really were, right?
And but I don't know, maybe it was too much. Maybe it was just across the line for
I
some
mean, he
reason.
talks about them, but
Yeah,
he doesn't. We don't see that.
that's what I mean. Like he's when
Yeah.
they're talking about his face, and he says something like this. The Caros believe in discipline.
Hmm.
Um, and you're like, who the fuck are the Caros? If you
Yeah.
if you're not like reading the books, I guess. What are you talking about? But I guess they're bad.
They bad. Um. Yeah. I just like. I feel like. I don't know. The Caros are one of those that like. I almost have this like sick fascination with them. Do you know what I mean? Like I, even after all this is over, just kind of want to know more about them. Like I'm sort of
Well,
curious.
it's a brother and sister evil duo.
Hmm.
That's kind of, fascinating.
Yes.
I can, I mean, I can only imagine the kind of weird fan fiction is out there, but I bet, I bet incest is on the table.
Oh God. Why are you saying this to me? Why you need to do this? You're not wrong though. I'm certain of it. Certain. Um but yeah, so they are dealing with um the Caros in this very perfunctory sort of way. Uh Ginny shows up
You were not
lamely.
impressed.
She's just not treated like anything in
Yeah,
this, you
yeah.
know? It's really hard to like see how they've sort of ruined her. Owen's bringing me a hot chocolate from Starbucks.
Oh,
What a
that's
nice boy.
nice.
You can't hear him. It's nothing. What? Um yeah, he had to. There's this thing called the movie pass that you pay $10 a month and you can go to one movie a day at the theaters.
Hmm.
And it's great, but you have to have your phone and your card on you at the theater to buy the ticket. And in order to, let other people use our movie passes, which we are occasionally doing, I have to let them borrow my phone and my movie pass card. And it
Um,
stresses me out a little bit to not have my phone on me, even when I'm in the middle of doing stuff.
hmm.
Hot chocolate, baby. Okay, so here comes the part where McGonagall and Snape fight. As you pointed out, it feels like a little bit lower stakes because things are just like firing off to the side into the stone walls, and there's not really any repercussions for
Yeah.
their fighting here. But it's still a fun moment when he just like whips himself into a weird smoke and goes out the window.
Yeah. I
Um,
hadn't I mean I'd seen bits and pieces of this scene, um, but I thought that I didn't realize I had seen the whole scene. I'll tell you.
okay.
Every time I saw a clip on YouTube because I went and looked at some stuff in preparation for the Smash Fiction guest that I did. I thought the clips were just cut short. I didn't realize the scene
Oh,
with Snape was really just like a couple of flicks of
mm,
of spells that didn't do damage to either, and then he was out the window.
right.
So I was a little unexpectedly bummed
Okay.
because I thought there was more to this scene.
That's fair. I do get that. Um, it does feel like there should be.
Yeah, I just
I
really
understand that.
yeah, it was like over before it was over before it was started. It was so fast, and I just thought it was a much more epic kind of hit down. I knew Snape
Mm-hmm.
got away, but I thought that there was just more to it. That even when he was fleeing, it was because he was so clearly outmatched and he had no
Right.
choice but to leave, but it didn't feel like that at all.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. Uh, I guess what it felt like was not so much that he was outmatched because he's not it doesn't feel like he's firing back there. I think what they decided to do was have him just defending himself
Mm-hmm.
and trying, as he's defending himself, to think of what the fuck to say and realizing that I'm just going to have to fucking bail. I can't say or do anything that isn't going to give me away here. I'm sure not attacking McGonagall. He's just like, I think that was part of it, was him contemplating whether he was willing to go that far and deciding, no, I don't think so.
Yeah.
I'm not doing that. So, but yeah, I understand that. So then Pansy Parkinson tries to give up Harry because Voldemort talks to them in their brain.
This was a very cool change.
I loved this, right?
I didn't know what the fuck was happening because a little girl that we don't know just starts screeching.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just like, what the fuck is happening right now?
Yep.
And then another girl on the other side of the room starts to scream. And then slowly I'm like, oh my God, he's in their heads.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, this was really cool.
Yeah, I like, there are moments, another one coming up, that I feel like the movie did better in some ways than the book, and this is one of them. Being in their heads is so much creepier than just a magical loudspeaker.
Yes, and it's like I said in the comments that it's a much better show of power. You know, I mean, we've seen other people use the magical megaphone,
right,
kind of apparatus. We've seen that, but that he can just invade everyone's head, kind of the way we've been grown used to seeing him do with Harry. Kind of talking to Harry in his head, but he can just fucking do that shit with whoever. I thought was just really a great choice.
Yeah, I agree. I'm glad that you feel that way too. and just the the kind of like expression of pain on so many people's faces as this is happening, that it's like, not only is he doing this, but it's super uncomfortable, and it's such an invasion.
Yep.
Is really the thing to me.
And it's like everyone suddenly gets a tiny taste of what it's like to have been Harry.
Right.
All
yeah,
this time.
true.
And they could not even deal.
So she tries to give up Harry, and instead of them being just escorted out.
No, this is different. They're going to the dungeons, right?
Is that fucked up, or is that just me?
I you know what? I was on board. I'm not gonna lie. I wanted to like switch it up in front, but I can't. So take those motherfuckers right to the dungeons.
Wow. Okay.
That is where they belong. Yes.
You are cold-blooded.
In the books, is it Pansy? It's Pansy in the
It's
movies,
Pansy Parkinson, yeah.
Is it her in the books as well?
Yeah.
Okay. So, yeah, especially too in the books, it's like just escort them out. Or just McGonagall say escort them home, let them go home.
I don't even remember exactly how she words it. I don't know,
but
I know it's not the dungeons. That's all I know.
Yeah, but it's not a specific place, or maybe she does say take them to the common room. Maybe that's what it is. Maybe she says take them to the common room, which is also in the dungeon.
Oh,
maybe that's what it was.
Do you think that's what it's supposed to be in the movie, that we're supposed to know that their common room is in the dungeon? I think it's just the dungeons, right?
Well, I took it as being like actual dungeons because I feel like Neville had just mentioned something about the dungeons as well just a few minutes ago when he's talking to Harry.
True.
But also the Slytherin. See, the way I feel like it is, I feel like the dungeons have always been a thing because that's what the Slytherin common room is. But now the dungeons are a different thing.
Okay.
And based on what Neville says, and then the way McGonagall says it, I feel like maybe the Slytherins moved up to a nicer room now that Death Eaters are in charge. I don't know the whole story, guys. I don't know.
Or maybe it's just assumed that all of the Slytherins like having a torture chamber right outside their common room.
Oh God, that's terrible.
You know, like, I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, I find I can't. Yeah, they wouldn't have kept that their common room if they're also using it as. But you know what? Maybe they would because they would take pleasure in that, right? That would be
That's what I'm
that'd
saying.
be really
Like,
funny to them.
it's messed up.
But then, how do you sleep at night?
I mean, how do you get any work
You
done? There's all this
know,
screaming right
my cat
outside.
was trying to make a bunch of noise to get in the bathroom, and I'm mad 2 days later. So I don't know how anybody was sleeping.
Oh my God. We are going straight to hell someday. Torture right outside. How do you get any work done? Okay, so then we go to the like montage, and I'll just kind of cover this as one big thing, even though they are separate scenes. The montage of all of the teachers and the parents, just the adults basically getting together and casting protective spells over Hogwarts. And then the commencement of the giant battle.
Yeah.
And McGonagall, you know, having her moment of animating all of the statues, and just, you know, everybody doing their separate things that they're good at. And this transitions into the attack scene, which is pretty brutal later, as we have like Hermione and Ron and Harry running through it, and everybody's blasting at each other, and there's a giant scything people in from the floor, and there are spiders running around, and it is just mayhem.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty bad.
This is another thing that I felt like I got a better sense in the movie than I did in the book. Just like how huge this is.
Yeah, I was going to say the same thing, that it in the books it's difficult to keep in mind the scale. Like, one, just how big Hogwarts is, you know, and then because of how big Hogwarts is, how big the battle would be. Like that,
Right.
it's on all fronts. You know, they're coming from all sides. I like too the way they decided to make the protective spells over the school, so that there are several shots of Voldemort like looking down at the school, and it's got this almost like it's in a giant snow globe.
Yes.
And
Yeah.
and then you can, as it goes on, there are parts that start to like break and turn red, and you can see where it's starting to falter.
Yeah, it's like almost starts to like break into, it's almost like scraps are coming off of it.
Yeah.
Like sunburned skin peeling away.
Yeah, but it looks like it's being burned away.
Yeah.
And which I guess it kind of is, because they're just shooting all these spells at it. But I thought that was a really neat effect. But yeah, it's just, I think, really hard in the books to convey how big all of this is, and then when you get to see it on the screen, you know, it's pretty cool. I would have liked to have seen this scene in particular, or the battle, you know, on a big screen. I bet that was cool.
Definitely. So Harry goes and has to convince Rowena Ravenclaw's daughter to give him the diadem. Which, do you have anything to say about that scene? Because I feel it's pretty self-explanatory.
Yeah, it's pretty much what it is.
Yeah. And then we have him like getting it and finding out that it is in the room of requirement, and he goes to find it, and then we cut to Hermione and Ron getting rid of their Horcrux, and we actually get to see it.
Yeah.
Which is rad. And I'm very happy about it.
Yeah, we see them a few moments telling Harry that they've got an idea. But they don't tell him.
No,
no, wait, they do. They do tell him, don't they? They don't tell him where they're going?
He says that we think we know where there are some basilisk fangs.
Okay, right.
He says, well, we think we know where to find some. And Harry's just like, yeah, all right.
Yeah, I'll catch you guys later.
It's just like, I got shit to do. I don't know. You figure it out. Fine. Sure.
And And then yeah, they go down to the Chamber of Secrets, and I wasn't it's all like just is the basilisk, is it stone? Is it
No, it's just a
just a
skeleton.
skeleton now?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. It has been a couple years.
Um,
I mean, that's better than a giant rotting monster, I guess.
I suppose. Um, yeah, so they they take one of the teeth out. Ron grabs one. They stab the cup with it, and there is a rush of water that is shaped like Voldemort's face.
Yeah, this is pretty cool.
And then they make out.
Meh. Less cool.
I thought it was pretty good. I'm not really into the two of them together, but I really did think that the moment of them kissing was well done in that it feels like the natural next thing, because it does look like they maybe almost died.
Yeah.
Just like, yeah, you know what? Let's just like do that. Let's just do that. I've been wanting to anyway, so
that was Neville's logic.
That's true. Yeah, what did you think of that addition?
I thought it was cute. I mean, it doesn't take away from anything. And you know, if I was gonna, if she wasn't gonna be with Harry, which is who I think she should have been with, but
Agreed.
if she wasn't gonna be with Harry, then Neville is, you know, not chopped liver.
Yeah, Neville is like Harry, but without all of the positive reinforcement. And yeah, I just really I know that it's like I'm not somebody who loves people being paired off at the end of things, you know, like that's not why I watch things. I'm not a shipper. But I do really like the idea of the two of them together, and I was gratified to see that make its way into the movie.
Yeah, and I like that it's not sudden. Like, according to Neville, he's been crazy about her for quite some time now.
Right? Yes. Yeah, he's just like, well, you know, I'm mad about her. What? It's like it's a matter of course.
Right? And, you know, since it looks like we all might die tonight, I better go ahead and tell her now.
Might as well do it.
Yeah, it was cute. I thought it was just a very, like, not a big deal thing, kind of a throwaway thing, but it was really cute and I enjoyed it.
Yes, agreed. All right, so then we have the thing that we both kind of were like, what does this mean, with Voldemort trying to cast spells and the wand like cracking?
Yeah.
Which
didn't make sense to me in the moment.
Posited later.
But then later on, when he starts to talk about realizing that the wand was resistant to him, like, oh, maybe that's what we were supposed to be getting from this. Someone in the group said that it's to show us that the wand can be broken. But we never, I mean, the wand is broken by Harry at the very end after all this is said and done.
Yeah, I don't feel like that makes sense. That take on it. That's not what I got from it. But because I never felt like it was an impossible thing to destroy. That was never really, it was just that it was unbeatable if you just tried to like cast spells against it the way you would with a regular wand. But I never believed that the wand was like impervious to destruction.
Mm-hmm.
And if I did believe that, it would be even weirder to have it happen that way the first time. Do you know what I mean? To have it happen when Voldemort's using it.
Right. But I will say that was a weird way to show resistance, but
agreed. I mean,
because they literally kind of show, it seems like it's cracking from the inside.
Yeah. And I don't know that they needed to show the resistance. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean,
maybe I'm trying to think of like how else they could have done it better, but I'm kind of coming up empty. So maybe they just did the best they could to show that the wand isn't working for him the way that it's supposed to work.
Right. I mean, they could have. I mean, yeah, there's a couple of things. I mean, they could have. Well, see, that's the thing too. Well, yeah, they could have just had him at one point look at the wand, kind of, you know, after he's done a spell or used it. But maybe that would have been too on the nose.
Yeah.
Like, he just looks at it like with his eyebrows all arched, like, what's going on with this thing? Even though, you
I
know what?
love
He doesn't
that.
have eyebrows, does he?
No, he doesn't,
Maybe that's why they
actually.
didn't do it that way.
That's true. Oh, that's funny. 'Cause, I guess I can't show surprise, but he can. So in the room of requirement, where Harry is trying to find the diadem, we have him get jumped by Malfoy. And
Yeah, Malfoy shows up in the castle just in time to grab Crabbe and Goyle as they're being ushered into the dungeons.
I think one of them is not Goyle.
Okay.
One of them is Blaze
So
Beanie. But
one of, he grabs whoever he grabs.
right.
Well, wait,
Uh-oh.
didn't somebody say that one of the actors had been replaced?
Yeah, I said that. The kid who played, I think, Goyle, got busted for weed and got dropped from the movie.
Oh. Huh.
And Blaze has been around in a couple different scenes.
Blaze is the black kid, right?
Yeah.
Oh, that's why I got confused.
So he's been around in the background,
Yeah,
and they probably just gave him a bigger part.
Somebody said, "Who's the black kid?" And then somebody else said, that somebody got replaced.
Yeah, somebody said, "Who's the black guy?" And I said he replaced Goyle because the kid who played Goyle got busted for weed. So, and I think that the way that I wrote it, it sounds like I'm saying like he's playing Goyle now, but that's not what I meant. I meant, they took Goyle out of the scene.
Oh, okay. Well, it's definitely Goyle because Ron says that Goyle set the whole room on fire. But I get your point. Like, so Crabbe is the one who's gone.
Oh, so he calls him Goyle?
Yeah.
Or maybe it's Crabbe. Okay, yeah.
But that was also really funny too because Ron goes screaming after them, like chasing. This is like a few beats ahead, but it was really funny to me. And then he goes screaming after them, and then like 10 seconds later, he comes flying back.
I forgot about that, to be honest.
Oh shit! But okay, so they show up in the room of requirement to jump Harry, and I don't know if I understand. It doesn't matter because it's in the book and it's whatever. I'm not mad at it, but I was just like, Draco at this point in the story is still like, this is an extra step for him to take. Like, why is I thought by this point he was not necessarily actively pursuing Harry anymore. I had started to think of him as just kind of being stuck by circumstance, being trapped.
I think what it's supposed to be in the books here is that he is just trying to save his own skin, and he thinks that getting Harry is going to do it. So it's not that he's not pursuing Harry, like, he's doing it purely because he thinks that this will keep him alive if he presents Harry to Voldemort.
Okay.
In the movie, they're framing it that he wants his wand back, which, also works, but is not really a solid motivation.
Yeah. Okay. All right. I guess he would go in to the castle to square off with Harry directly for his wand. Even though Voldemort's made it very clear that no one should be squaring off directly with Harry except for him.
Right, yeah.
But okay.
So, okay. Then the Fiend Fire thing, they go running out of there, and the Fiend Fire in the books is what destroys the diadem. But in this, they have Harry stab the diadem with a basilisk fang, and then the, spirit of Voldemort coming out of it throws it into the air, kind of, and it just gets thrown back into the room and consumed by Fiend Fire, secondarily. Right. It's made clear that it's already destroyed by the basilisk fang.
Yes.
and that the fiend fire is just,
Yeah.
sort of the finishing touch, really.
Which, I mean, do you feel like that makes more sense?
Um, I personally think for the movie that there's not a good way to make clear that the fiend fire just has the same kind of destructive power as a basilisk fang, like as basilisk venom. So, for the sake of the movie, I think it's an easy shorthand to just, you know, but it does make the fiend fire feel less necessary as compared to the book, when the fiend fire is what destroys it. So it feels like if that hadn't happened, they didn't have more basilisk fangs with them, did they? I don't think that. Did they bring any up for Harry to use?
No, they carry it, never leaves their hands. Like
So,
it's like, and they use it in the chamber. All the water thing happens, they kind of run out, but I don't think they ever drop it or anything. And it doesn't get destroyed when they destroy the cup.
so yeah, I feel like, I don't know, I feel like it makes more sense this way, and might even have made more sense in the books if she did it that way, simply because having the fiend fire suddenly be this like thing we've never heard of that's super
Right.
powerful,
That
you
was
know.
that was going to be my next question. In the books, did we talk about the fiend fire being able to destroy Horcrux? We do, right?
We do, yeah.
But that doesn't come up in the movies at all.
No.
All right, so
And I think that the reason that J.K. Rowling goes with that is because she feels like, well, it's a little easy for them to just be able to go grab basilisk fangs and use those on everything. But it would have only been 2 Horcruxes. I
hmm
guess 3 if you're counting the like the journal, but it's just that they're using the knowledge that they already had in that case, which
hmm
doesn't feel like the same
yeah,
thing.
and I'll, this is unnecessarily. I'm sorry, guys, for even bringing this up, but I'm thinking like the basilisk in the movie has a mouthful of fucking fangs or teeth or whatever, and they
Right.
just pop, they just pop one off. But I'm wondering if you're really only supposed to think they have two fangs,
No, we
or
see Ron take from a mouthful.
yeah, in the movie we do. But I'm wondering like the basilisk, the basilisk as the monster, like, or you have what fangs are usually just like the two on the top and maybe the two on the bottom and everything. You don't usually call a whole mouth fangs.
Um No, because I think at one point, yeah, you know what? I'm gonna check this because I feel like people are probably yelling at me right now. Um,
Because if there's a
I
limited number of fangs available, then maybe that's a thing, and maybe that's why Fiend Fire in the books makes sense.
okay. You know what? So I'm saying like she just didn't want the fangs to like be too easy.
hmm
But the quote from the book is, there was a clatter as the basilisk fangs cascaded out of Hermione's arms. Running at Ron, she flung them around his neck and kissed him full on the mouth. So they do bring basilisk
Oh,
fangs up from the Chamber of Secrets in in the book as well.
but in the book, she chooses to just have it be the Fiend Fire that destroys it.
Yeah.
Do they show up at the Room of Requirement in the book, Hermione and Ron?
Yes.
Okay. Well, then I
Yeah,
don't
they
know.
do.
I don't know.
So yeah, it's just like it does seem like the fiend fire was kind of unnecessary, but I don't know. And I'm not sure if the fiend fire is supposed to have gotten rid of the room of requirement, because that could be a thing as well. But I don't really like it because I want the room of requirement to be okay. You know what I'm saying?
It never occurred to me that the room would be gone. Just that maybe the stuff in it would be gone. Like
I
I
think
bet.
I'm just
Yeah, I feel like
letting
the room is.
myself get paranoid.
Yeah, the room is just going to be. I mean, it's the fucking room of requirement. As long as it's required, it will be. It's in the name.
Okay,
It's in the
noted.
name.
um yeah, it's just a weird thing that she had that be. Yeah, I don't know. Um okay, so let's finish this guy up here because we've been going a long time here. Um we have the moment of Snape's death in the boathouse, which I feel is way more upsetting in the movie. And probably part of that is that they do make Snape so much more uh sympathetic in the movie. But
Yeah, it's we don't really we see him, get wounded, but then we don't see Nagini really finish him.
right.
But we see it from the outside of like Harry's perspective, kind of like peeking in, and
Mhm.
it's pretty brutal. Like every time Nagini strikes at him, it's like this his whole body kind of like bangs against the wall.
Shakes and
It's
yeah.
yeah, it's and there's like 3 or 4 strikes, and it's hard to watch. It's hard to hear.
Yeah, it is.
Um, why doesn't Voldemort just use the the green spell, the Adava Kedavra, whatever?
I've said this before because J.K. Rowling needed Snape to be half alive when
And
Harry
that's it.
found him.
That's it. That's the only reason, right?
I really think that's
Yeah,
it.
that's what I thought too.
Like there's and it's kind of funny because like in the movie, in the book he has Nagini kill Snape and he has Snape trapped in like the cloud and Nagini attacks him and like, you know, but here he like slits Snape's throat with
Hmm.
his wand and then has Nagini attack him, which feels extra silly that he used his wand at all and still didn't use
Yeah,
Avada Kedavra.
yeah.
Like, you know what I mean?
He uses his wand to cast like some kind of slice his throat spell.
Mm-hmm.
But because I remember when we talked about it, it was all in the books when we were recording. I feel like
You gotta get closer to the mic.
when we were talking about this in the books, I feel like it came up that we were like, why he didn't use his wand, other than the fact that it, for story reasons. It's almost as though Snape was like beneath him, kind of like he was just like trash for Nagini to take out, almost like
Mm-hmm.
I'm done with you. And there was
Right.
something about him not even lifting his wand to kill Snape, which was doubly insulting.
Right.
But in the movie, they have him use his wand, and it
Right.
takes away from that.
Yeah, I don't know. Like I can't really
No,
I
it's what it is, and he has to be able to relay this message to Harry. That's
yeah,
all.
no, like I think that's definitely what it is, but it just bums me out that there isn't a better reason given by Rowling in that regard, you know.
Hmm.
I just wish that she could have made it more specific because more specific why he does it the way that he does because it really the whole thing about Voldemort is how like dismissive he is when he kills people.
Mm-hmm.
And for him to sort of like see like treat him differently and there not be a specific reason why feels against character,
Yeah, it
you
does.
know.
I wonder she just Rowling, I mean, just kind of painted herself into a bit of a corner
Yeah, I think
with
she
with
might have.
this, and there just wasn't anything else. There was just nothing else to be done. Um, because I can't think of anything that we've learned about Voldemort or seen him do that jibes with this choice. Like not a
Right.
single thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. I really do. Um, so if anybody out there who's listening has a better reason, I'm like all ears. Like, don't think that I'm over here trying to trying to poke holes in the story, because like I've said before, she has earned a lot of goodwill. So to a degree, I am more willing to
Yeah.
listen to an explanation than, I might be with another series. But I just
Yeah.
can't really think of one that feels like it's true.
Right. And like we said earlier, that by the time you get to this part of the story, it seems meaningless to get stuck on these types of things.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's too late now.
Yeah,
this is where
yeah.
we've been. This is where we are in the story, and I don't want to say it doesn't matter, because like you, I am curious, and I would like something that felt right, just
Mm-hmm.
so I could, add it to the story and whatever. But I'm also not, I guess, hung up on it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, I get you. I get you. Um, so then we have Harry taking his memories and going to the pensive.
Did you
Now, what
see
did you
how
think of
mad I
this?
was? But I didn't, because I didn't see
Oh
that.
my God.
I didn't see the handoff of the memory, probably because I was fucking trying to comment, which is the drawback to live commenting,
Yes.
especially for someone like me who takes 20 minutes to write 2 sentences. Um, so I had a moment of fucking panic. I thought that we just weren't doing that, and I was about to throw the whole thing away.
She was heated, guys. She was. She's like, did we just skip something? I'm like, no. Wasn't even sure that, like, I thought that was what you meant, but I was like, that can't be what she
And then a
meant.
few minutes later, I was like, oh, okay.
Yeah. So how did you feel about the way this was done? Because there were some people in the comments who felt like this was
Yeah.
not handled well.
I actually liked this.
Yeah,
I did. I
same.
liked it. It didn't have, and I think, and I didn't. I saw someone say they didn't like it, but I don't know if they went into detail about what they had a problem with. But I could see, because there's little to no dialogue in this. It's all like cut scenes, and then there's like,
Can you come closer to the mic again? I'm sorry, lady, but you
that's
keep going
weird because
away.
I don't know if I can get any closer. Um,
I don't know, or
there's
maybe you're not facing it dead
no.
on or what, but you just like,
Oh, all right. Let's see if this is a little bit better. Um, there's no dialogue, but there's just like um, there's no dialogue from the scene that we're watching. All the dialogue we hear is like bits and pieces from previous stuff, kind of
right.
until we get to like older Snape, like the first opening scenes with him and Lily.
Mm-hmm.
So I don't know, maybe because it's doesn't feel like we get fully immersed in the memories as fully as we did with some of the other memories.
Right.
That maybe that's why people don't like it. But I thought it was good. I thought it was effective.
Yeah, same. I was surprised that people didn't like it because I felt like it hit on all of the stuff that it's gonna hit on. Like, you could argue, oh, it doesn't talk about how Snape was part of the Death Eaters and that was why she. But this movie has already made it very clear a while ago that they're not interested in that part of his story,
Mm-hmm.
of making it at all a question whether he was a good guy or not. So that is to be expected to me in the way that they've decided to handle his character. Um so
Yeah,
yeah.
I mean, it doesn't. We don't start getting like full conversations in the memory until we get to an adult Snape talking to Dumbledore, which is all stuff that makes Snape very sympathetic.
Mhm.
Um, yeah, I mean, like I think we get the first full scene of dialogue between anybody in this memory is Snape kind of begging Dumbledore to hide the Potters or protect them or
Mm-hmm.
something.
Mm-hmm.
Um, Everything up to that point was just like him and Lily laughing, looking at trees and then him and Lily being at school together and her getting sorted to Gryffindor. It's all, but there's not anything really from the two of them except like little kid faces.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And
Mm-hmm.
then they're real characters only as adults when Snape is now regretting his life choices and wanting to
Right.
make amends.
Yeah. Um. So and obviously they have to do some changes for what do you call it? The age makeup and everything, and I think that uh the age makeup on Snape, what's his face?
Alan
What's his
Rickman?
name? Thank you. I think looks amazing. Is that just me?
Yeah. No, I'm just kidding.
Listen.
You
Um
know what? I had said, and I just made a quick comment, but I was really distracted by what Snape looked like in these last two movies. There was something going on with the way he looked. Um, he looked older to me, and he
okay.
looked bloated. His face to me looked bloated, and I wasn't really sure if it was just me. I wasn't sure if it was makeup. I wasn't sure if it was supposed to be some kind of telling, that he is worse for wear this deep into his, subterfuge, or if it was just an elaborate choice because they need to make, do the age makeup thing. And so you just take off all that shit you have on his face and suddenly he looks 20 years younger. I really don't know. But every time I saw him in these last two movies, I kept being like, what is wrong with his face? Really, each time.
Damn.
And
Okay.
I don't know, maybe Alan Rickman just, gained weight or something. I really don't know, but I swear to God, every time, I'm just like, why does he look like that?
Oh. I just feel bad now. We're just like,
Sorry.
what's wrong with his face? God. I think, yeah, I don't know. Maybe it's just him getting older. I got nothing for you. Um,
You'll
I'm just
have
so
to
trying
though.
to think of anything, and I'm
You're
just
gonna
like,
have to when we get done. Go look at like Snape, in movies.
well, the thing is, like, I am not saying that I don't get what you're saying.
Oh,
I do get what you're saying, and I just don't. I don't really know what to say because I understand what you mean, and it's just sort of like, I don't know what to tell you because maybe it's just that he's old. Maybe he started drinking a
But
lot
he
more.
didn't look like that
I
in
am.
real life, though. I saw Alan Rickman a couple times before he died, and he didn't look that bad. Maybe this was just a
Um,
bad time in his life. Maybe he was going through some shit. I
maybe
don't,
he was going through some shit.
I
I
don't
do
know.
not
I
know.
don't know what was happening for him. Let me stop being so judgmental.
You are so
His,
hard to hear.
his,
I don't know what has
I
happened.
can't imagine what. You should see
Are
me.
you sitting in a different
I am
way?
practically sitting on top of this fucking laptop right now.
See, I barely heard that.
No, see, I don't even know what to tell you because I am.
Maybe back off a little bit then.
Oh,
Maybe you're too close to it. I don't know. But whatever you were doing before was working fine.
maybe I was too close to it. I don't know.
Okay, see, yeah, now you sound better
I
to
just
me.
moved back from it.
I think that's what it I think you were too close. Okay.
Oh, okay. Who knew
I
that
don't
was a
know.
thing?
Um so yeah, we have this and we have a moment of Snape finding Harry too and just fucking leaving him there.
Yeah,
Um
hmm,
I guess.
yeah, was
But that makes sense cuz he's like, yeah, whatever. I just cared about Lily. Who cares? Which if you've read the books, that feels right in character. Hmm. Um So we come back to the present day, and Harry looks fucking shocked. And he goes out to meet his doom and says goodbye to his friends, which he doesn't do in the books, right? He doesn't say goodbye. Like, he can't bear to do it.
yeah, I don't, yeah, I think you're right.
Um, and he goes and gets killed.
That's basically all that happens. He goes and just gets killed.
Yep.
How about that baby Voldemort soul?
How about that? What'd you think of that?
I thought it was horrifying, is what I thought.
It's awful looking, right? Ugh. No.
They said in the movie that it was Voldemort. And I couldn't remember if they were that clear in the book. I remember in the book, Dumbledore's like, don't worry about that right now, or don't worry about that, or something.
Dumbledore says it's a part of Voldemort that was brought here to die or something. Yeah. And I don't feel like the book was that specific, but it's pretty clear that it's the piece that was attached to Harry and like.
Yes, I agree. I thought it was pretty clear. I just don't think the book said it, like spelled it out.
Right.
And the movie was like, nope, this is what it is.
Yeah, true. What did you think of this whole scene and Harry in the weird afterlife?
Yeah, I liked it. From what I can remember, I felt like it was pretty true to what happened in the book. Unless there are like some giant things I'm forgetting.
No, it seems almost verbatim.
Yeah.
To be honest, like almost exactly.
And the only thing I'll say is that, and this is especially weird because it is, I think, almost verbatim. Like I felt like it was exactly pulled from the book, but somehow Harry doesn't seem as sad as I thought he was.
Yeah.
For this scene. You know, and also Dumbledore seemed especially chipper.
Yeah, Dumbledore's like, you wonderful brave boy, and I was like, okay, I mean, sure,
yeah,
but also like,
yeah, there was. I mean, I really like this movie, and I feel like maybe we talked more about what we didn't like, which I didn't. Really
I don't know. I felt like we were pretty fair about it.
Yeah, but I mean, I really did enjoy the movie. This is one of the moments in the movie that I thought the tone wasn't quite right.
I have to agree with you, to be honest.
But again, with every other critique I've had of the movie, for the most part, it wasn't like a deal breaker though. I wasn't like, oh, that's it, they ruined the whole thing. It wasn't that at all. It was much more of a, this isn't quite how I felt like it would feel.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
No, I see that. It's like, I think that there's a certain contemplative vibe in this scene in the books that the movie is just never really gonna quite reach because we can't be in Harry's head for it.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, I think you might be right. There's like when Harry asks, does he have to go back? In the books, it feels like a really weighted moment,
Yeah.
Like it's heavy, like you really believe, that he is not sure, even if it's just for a second,
if he wants to.
Yeah, and I felt like there was no question.
Yeah.
So, and again, even after I say that, I feel like, all right, yeah, maybe we always knew that Harry would go back, even in the books. But I still feel like for that moment, they managed to make me think, like he's really thinking about this stuff. He's really considering his options here. And he almost wants Dumbledore to tell him it will be okay if you don't go back. And I just feel like there wasn't any of that in the way the scene played.
Yeah.
But maybe it was because there was just not enough time for us to watch Harry sit in this place and think about things.
Yeah. Yeah, I feel like that's because what he talks about with Dumbledore, like I said, is pretty much verbatim, but there's a ton going on in Harry's head and in his like emotions that we just aren't going to be able to get in the movie. So, yeah, limitations of the medium, I suppose. All right. Well, so then Harry goes back and we have the moment where you thought that he kind of
Very
took
Kanye
over
Neville.
Kanye Neville.
Yeah, he comes back from the train station, and I thought, you know what I thought they did do well though is Narcissa walking over to his body
Oh
and
yeah.
just kind of like, whispering, "Is Draco still alive?" I thought that was done really well. Um, and yeah, but then they carry him. Hagrid carries him back to the school. Now Hagrid knows Harry is alive the minute he picks him up, right?
No, in the book he's like crying.
Right, but in the
Like
movie he's not, and I feel like it's because you can feel that Harry's alive, and maybe they realized that once they had him carrying his body.
maybe.
Because yeah, Hagrid is not like all broken up and sobbing as he's carrying Harry's body back to the school in the movie.
Yeah, I don't know. Maybe. I just kind of thought that they didn't want to distract from the gravity of the scene with a what
Blubbering.
would doubtless be hilariously blubbering Hagrid, because there's no way to do that it's not kind of goofy. You know what I mean?
That's a shame. Hagrid could have had a dignified single tear like Denzel. Are you saying he couldn't pull it off? Is that what you're saying?
I don't think so. I don't think that would feel true to him.
Well, they
I don't
also
know.
made it a point in the movies that every time we saw Hagrid crying, it was always like really, almost
Snuffling and blubbery.
yeah, and almost like playing it for a joke, even if it didn't warrant it. So
Yeah.
maybe that's something the movies did and couldn't find themselves out of that,
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, the thing with Neville is I thought that when they show up with Harry, Neville kills Nagini and then everything goes crazy.
Correct.
But I guess I misread that.
No.
I remember that is how it happened in the books, right?
That is how it happened in the books.
Okay, right.
Yeah, it's just not, what they did for the movie, because having Nagini get killed so far ahead of when Harry actually faces off with Voldemort, I think they weren't interested in having that bit of tension taken care of so quickly, because of course they have that whole scene with Ron and Hermione trying to kill Nagini, which when we're talking about what could we cut in order to get our creature story,
Yep.
there it is.
There
That's
it is.
what
It
could
took
get
us a
cut.
while to get there. There it is.
Yep. Yeah, that could have gone and it would have been fine. But sadly, we had to watch them inevitably, because we know that they're not going to kill him. We know that's not going to work. It's not like that's but whatever. Plus the irony of them trying to kill a snake with a basilisk fang is also kind of hilarious, even though I am not saying it wouldn't have worked, but there's something about that that's amazing. So yeah, then and what okay, I'm getting ahead of myself here. So fight between Mrs. Weasley and Bellatrix. That should have gone on longer.
Yes.
I wish it was longer. I did enjoy it and it was satisfying in its way, but I really wish it had been more of a thing on its own. And then Neville manages to chase down the snake, kill it. Instead of just dying, it like explodes into a bunch of tattered, flaking ember.
Yeah, which is kind of
things.
how he ends up going too, so.
Yeah, all right. Let's just talk about that. Well, first let's talk about how he's like, let's go together, and jumps off the edge of the building.
What was that?
What was that?
I don't know.
They're like, ooh, whose face is whose? You can't tell. We get it. We already got it. We literally were told there's a piece of his soul in Harry. We know. You don't need to do this. Another thing, cut it.
Now we're making room for the shit.
Now we've made some space. And then, when Harry finally does kill Voldemort, instead of just dropping dead like a regular person to emphasize his ordinariness in the end,
Yep.
he has this supernatural death where he just breaks apart into pieces.
And no one is there.
No, there's not a whole crowd surrounding them to watch his downfall.
Yeah. This I did not care for.
Really weird choice. Like, I don't know if the writers felt like it was too much of a cliche to have them surrounded by the crowd for their final battle.
Look, but I wanted that.
I mean, the thing is that Voldemort is a cliche, and he thinks he's gonna kill Harry, and he would want everyone to see it.
Absolutely. And also the fact that for half of this series, everyone thinks he is gone, and he comes back. I feel like people need to see just a dead, ordinary Voldemort body.
Agreed.
You know, we cannot just have him disappear into fucking smoke with no witnesses, and then the whole world is like, we're done. Yay. You know? I just don't buy it.
Completely agree. Yeah, it just feels like everybody's gonna come outside. What happened to him? Oh, he's dead. But is he? No, I swear, this time for real, he's dead. Yeah, but like, before, no, he exploded into sparks. Well, that just sounds like maybe he did a spell. Right? No, it was a definite death spark.
It not just even, he dissolved into like smoke, which is how they fucking travel.
Yeah, the only person who would be like, I guess he did die would be Hermione, because she knows that you cannot apparate inside the Hogwarts grounds because she has read Hogwarts in history.
And she's just looking at everybody else like, why haven't you read it?
Hello. But yeah, it really is, that is a moment where I feel like they fundamentally misunderstood the point of his death in the books. Like, it just doesn't work the way that she intended if you do it like that, and it's silly. So then we have a brief scene at the end. Before, I kind of skipped over this, but Harry sees all the people who have died before he goes to the Pensieve, and we see Fred's family like draped over his body.
Yeah.
That was rough. That was harder to watch than it had been to read.
Yeah, that was, there's this, they show Lupin and Tonks. You know, they did this thing with Lupin and Tonks too, when they were doing right at the beginning of the battle, where they're both standing on the, what do you call those things?
Ramparts?
Yes, that is exactly the word I wanted. Right? And they are trying to touch, but their hands don't reach. Remember that?
Yes.
Why could you let them? But anyway, and then we see them when they're laid out, after the battle, dead, and they're both laying on the floor together, and their hands were kind of doing that same thing again.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was pretty sad.
Yeah, it definitely felt like, I get what they were trying to do, I think, which is that them being together was just always a battle. Like, it never felt like they got to just be happy and be together. But it did, in that moment, feel like you can literally take a step like 3 inches to your right.
Like what?
There's nothing that's forcing you to stand where you're standing. Just step to your right. Just go ahead. Nothing's keeping you.
Right? That was like, I was watching it and I was like, are they stuck? On the spot they're in? Like, I don't understand. I mean, because they're really straining to touch, and it's not that hard. Why is it so hard?
Yeah, and then them laying next to each other in death, and they're like, "Oh, isn't this moving?" I'm like, "Well, they can't move now. They're dead. This doesn't mean the same thing. It doesn't have the same impact because, if they had, like you said, been stuck or tied up or something and had been trying to reach each other, and then we saw them like this, that would be fucking heartbreaking." Right. But instead, you're just kind of like, "But they could have." I guess. Like, I don't get it, but sure. And this scene at the end, after everybody's like, hanging out, happy that they won, even though they didn't see Dumbledore die. I mean, Voldemort. Harry is out on the walkway with his friends, and we never see him repair his own wand. He just breaks the Elder Wand and throws it over the side.
He don't care.
I'm just like, you don't have a wand.
Like in a world without Voldemort, it doesn't even matter what kind of wand he has. He's just gonna pick up a new one. But where though? There's no Ollivanders anymore.
I know, right? Like, I guess Ollivander's not dead, but whatever, fine. And then it ends with all of them sort of standing and staring out on the bridge before we go to the prologue of the book, or the epilogue, which is them saying goodbye to their children as they board the Hogwarts Express, except that there is no Teddy Lupin, because we're going to mention Teddy in the moment where he's used the Resurrection Stone.
But then that's it.
But we're going to mention him even though we didn't actually talk about Tonks's pregnancy.
Right. There is...
And then we're not going to have the child show up anywhere. He didn't need to say anything about the baby at all, and it would have been fine.
So when they're watching the kids leave and they're in their compartment, and there's their kid, Albus, there's Weasley's daughter.
Right.
And then there is a kid next to, I think it's Albus, with like longer hair.
I don't remember that.
I remember thinking, is that supposed to be Teddy? I mean, there's no reason for me to think that. They didn't say anything. But I just remember being like, oh, I wonder if we're supposed to think that's who that is.
I don't think so, because I don't remember that.
But yeah.
But and it would have been pretty fucked up for Harry to have basically ignored that kid and talk to his son and reassure his son and then be like, yeah, whatever, both of you. He's treating him like he was treated by the Dursleys. But yeah, it's just such a weird choice to me to like bring up Teddy Lupin in that one scene, and in every other scene where he mattered, not have him be mentioned or brought up or be there. Like, why bother? Just leave him out then, if that was what you were gonna do. But I have to agree. There was a commenter who was saying that like they felt that the makeup was really inconsistent, that Harry and Ginny look way older, but that Hermione looks basically the same. And she does. And it's one of those weird moments where I'm like, normally I would be like, well, men can be aged up, but Ginny is aged up. So I'm not really sure why they didn't age up Hermione as much. Because, this isn't like in the show Vikings, which is like one of my favorite shows ever. There are huge time jumps of like a decade. Twice, I think. And the dude gets aged up like crazy. Like, he looks like hell. And his wife looks exactly the same. They do not age her at all. Which, on one hand, I'm like side-eyeing hard. And on the other hand, she is so stunning that I'm like, yeah, don't touch her. Just leave her. Just let her be amazing the way that she is, because she's perfect. But that's not what's going on here, because one of the women was aged up. So why? I mean, and Ron is aged the hell up and given a beer gut and everything. So I don't really know. But the epilogue, like, how did you feel about it? Because it didn't really work for me that well in the books either.
Yeah, I'm not it's funny because a lot of times when I read stuff, I'll have lots of questions, I wonder what happened with this one and what happened with that one. But I am rarely ever satisfied by epilogues. It's a weird thing, and I feel guilty, like, oh, well, the author is fucking damned if they do and damned if they don't. But what ends up happening for me is that an epilogue, by its definition, can just be a little thing, right? And the questions I have, I don't want just a little thing. I want to know, like, basically what I'm asking for is for you to never stop telling this story.
Right.
So the epilogues are always unsatisfying. And in the end, I'm just like, well, you could have just left that shit out then. And that's exactly how I feel about this in the books and in the movie.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Yeah. Oh, that's funny. What I'm asking is for you to basically never stop telling the story. I think it sums up everyone's feelings at the end of the books. Just like, but can you just like not end it? If that's cool, it'd be great if you just,
I
shit.
mean,
I knocked my
oh
headphones
my
off into my mic. Sorry, everybody. That's probably going to be kind of loud.
I mean, fucking BC Andrews kept writing long after she was dead. So,
Oh, God.
if JK really cared about us, she would still be telling the story.
Yeah, I think she's come out very, very explicitly and said, I am not writing anymore in the Harry Potter universe. Because people just kept on being like,
it's because she doesn't love us, is what it is.
And although I heard that she wrote the Fantastic Beasts script, and if she did, I need to look into that more. And, eventually if we cover that, we'll talk about it. But
are you saying
sure.
if she did write it, you're not sure if you want her to write anything else?
Yes, that might be what I'm saying.
We talked about the rumors that she's not really the author of this book, right?
What?
We didn't talk about that?
No.
They're not really rumors. There's like this, and I couldn't even source it. I couldn't even tell you where I heard it, but I'd heard it rumbling around in the world long before I met you or never actually read the books. And then it all was crystallized for me in a Simpsons episode, as things usually are, where there's this thing that it's like she didn't write the books. It's actually a collection of people who write these books, and not just the Harry Potter books, but these other books that like YA books that come out and become phenomenons. And what they do is they just get a person to be the figurehead who has a compelling backstory, and that becomes the author, the face of the books. And then there was a Simpsons episode where Lisa and Mo and I don't even know who the fuck else, they all get together and they come up with a series that becomes wildly popular, a la Harry Potter.
Okay.
So I feel like, but if that were really true though, then the books never would have stopped. They would still be churning them out.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
Oh, it's a weird thing. It's a weird thing.
Is, right?
Yeah. I wish I could, I don't know, I would have to bother with Googling, did she really write the books? And I bet like a million things would come up.
Oh, definitely. I don't even want to go down that road. I'm just like, that's just asking for heartbreak and frustration. Because, I mean, the conspiracy theories that people come up with, have you ever tried to read an actual thesis statement from a flat earther?
Oh, God, no.
It is the kind of thing that you walk away from it a little less settled in your fundamental understanding of humankind. You're just like, I thought we all operated under, similar. Yeah. Nope. This person just flew right the fuck off the charts into territory I did not even know was there.
I read recently a Facebook post from a well-known hotepper. And he is claiming to have detoxed a woman, so to the point where she is no longer HIV positive.
Oh, Christ.
Yeah. So yeah. With herbs, natural herbs, he's claiming that he got rid of both her HIV and what else? Something else. Oh, and what the fuck else? Something else. I forget what though. Yeah.
I swear to God, this planet, burn it down. Was that guy?
Yada, yeah.
Yada, yeah, that's the one.
That's what it was.
Oh, he is a disaster.
Yeah, he is.
I'm considering the book that I'm writing that I sent you little bits of. there is a Halloween party that's going to be coming up in it, and I'm considering having somebody go as Yara to the Halloween party. I feel like is that an obscure enough thing that nobody reading it is going to understand who I'm talking about, or because I kind of want to, because his clothing choices.
Listen, the whole thing is it's oh my god.
And he's like what, like 4'10" too?
Yes,
he's teeny tiny.
Oh my god.
Talking about how broccoli's man-made. Like that man is just a whole other level.
It is. Yeah, he had to flee the country because the ubiquitous they were after him.
Oh,
but he's always
I didn't hear about that.
He's posted on Facebook. Like, how are you in hiding? And you got your fucking GPS location on your Facebook. It says right here that you're wherever.
Oh god, guys, if you don't know who that is, you should go look him up because they have like clips of his best of on YouTube and they are hilarious.
Yeah, he's fucking out of his mind. And he's so dangerous because from what I can tell, there are like 1 million people. They're like, yes, you, sir, are someone who I want to hear more from.
He's trying to claim women shouldn't have periods, that we only have periods because we're full of toxins.
Yep, that's him. I think that's him. I mean, there's a couple of different ones out there talking about that shit, but he is maybe one of the... I'm
pretty sure he was one of the pioneers of that one.
One of the more prolific ones. Yeah, it's something. It's a scene, man.
Well, yeah, so this final movie, I think, is much better than a lot of the others, but it suffers in the back end with all kinds of like weird choices that they made.
Yeah, it's if you look at both of the part 1 and part 2 is like one movie. They really held it together for a long time, and then it does kind of fall apart at the end, which is odd because the end is like the easiest part.
One would think,
right? This is what we've all been waiting for. All you got to do is do what's in the book, and it's perfect. It's just do that. And for some reason, at the very end, they're just like, nah, let's take it a different direction.
Yeah, it's so cinematic, it feels like, and I don't know, they just decided that wasn't enough, which is like what they always do, that always makes it bad, and that it's not enough. I'm like,
they just showed so much restraint through the first 3/4 of this, this ending, this book, and then at the end they were just like, we deserve a treat for being so restrained.
But yeah, the first half of it I think is just awesome. I really, really like the first half of it. It's my favorite one still. I kind of wondered on the rewatch if I was still going to feel the same way about how much I liked various ones. I'm pretty much in the same spot that I was before we started.
Well, I enjoyed them both. They were by far my favorites of the entire movies. So I'm glad that even though the very, very end was kind of like muddled and they kind of, shit the bed a little bit towards the end, overall, I'm glad the series ended on such a high note,
Agreed, yeah. Yeah, definitely agreed. And I'm glad that we were able to like, it didn't feel like we were watching 8 movies and that I was going to be like, oh, the end of this is going to be hard. I felt like we were constantly building towards the best of what they had to offer, which is at least a nice way for this to go as a as a podcaster, because it's hard when you're covering so much to feel like you've kind of peaked, which is, I think, part of like how Maggie felt when we were recording Twin Peaks, the first season, so tight and so good. And then we had to go on into the murky mess of the second season. And I think she was dreading that more than I knew at the time.
Right.
And I think it's hard to start off with them being as weak as they are. Because, I have to convince you to continue.
Oh my God. If it had not been for the fucking GoFundMe, I would not have watched it. I was adamant. I was not interested. I watched that first movie and I would have gone to my grave. and would not have regretted it. I would have been convinced I made the correct decision.
And
Um,
I think that it's gonna be way more fun for you at Wizarding World now that you've seen them too. There's just so much that you wouldn't have even known what it
yeah,
was, you know. Um, so when we're going on our trip in like 2
I
weeks at
know.
this
I'm so
point.
excited, or as excited as I get. You know what I was thinking? I was thinking that I wish that exclamation points were a thing in real life because I have difficulty expressing excitement. And I wish I could just hold up a card with like an exclamation point so people would be like, oh, Rashawn's excited about something.
Yeah, I am like, oh God. The one thing that I don't have for the trip that I really had hoped to be able to buy was a pair of the plus size Harry Potter leggings from Hot Topic / Torrid because they're owned by the same company. But they had some really cool plus size Marauders map leggings, which they have sold out of except in like the very biggest size. And they have a pair that is like the Hogwarts castle like profile silhouette that are cool too, but they're like $40 for leggings. I just can't do it, you know.
Yeah, that's a lot for leggings.
Yeah. So, but I'm trying to design a picture for the shirts so that we all have something that we can wear to recognize each other on the first day at the park.
Hmm.
So, working on that. Um, I think
I
that's
think so.
about all I wanted to mention. Are you good?
Yeah, I think that's it, guys. Thanks again to everyone who's
Yeah,
listening because that means you made the trip possible.
you did. You guys, thank you. You guys are amazing. I swear to God. What would we do without you?
I know
We do.
what we wouldn't do.
What we wouldn't do is have any fun ever for the rest of our lives. So yeah, thank you guys all so much. And you know that we'll be filling your feeds that week with pictures and probably short videos and just irritating the fuck out of you by the end of it. So
Look
I
forward to
hope you're
that.
ready for that. All right, guys. Well, thanks again. And thank you, Rashawn, for agreeing to do these despite your better judgment.
Well,
And I hope you had fun despite how
I
terrible some of them
did.
were.
It was a lot of fun to talk about how terrible those early movies were. So yeah. So thanks again, guys.
All right, everybody. Well, we will see you on the other side. Thank you again for donating. And keep your eyes peeled because we might be offering some kind of other incentive in the coming year for Fantastic Beasts. Fingers crossed. We'll see. Toodaloo, motherfuckers.
Bye, guys.